Is that your introductory to the after show?
Yeah. Well,
Benby
Oh my
tagged
gosh.
me, said,
Wow.
this is insane, but also not that surprising at the same
Jeremy's
time.
Jeremy's so serious about those distances. Jeremy,
Wait,
dude,
can I
because the
ask Shane? Wait,
distances tell you if you're.
oh, go ahead. I wanted to ask Shane a question if he's still there, if he's
Yeah,
at his
man.
mic. Well, I guess I'll let Jeremy go. But I had a question for you. Just you could maybe answer it real quick. Like, of the ones in that model, like the four main projections, which one would you say is closest to the truth?
Well, so I thought that it was kind of interesting that we can get like a combination of them. So like for like continent proximity, you can look at the AE map, and then specific observations where unified directions are needed. The dual pole map works like for 24-hour sun. It works for Southern Cross observations. It works for the, like we made a demo for the Southern observation and the dual pole all points, in the God mode to the right direction. So that answers like those two things. It works for 24-hour sun. It has its own issues. I think I like both of those. I think I like certain aspects of the dual pole for sure.
yeah.
But like, is one real? I don't know, man. I think that the real is probably a combination of all of them. As gay as that sounds.
Yep, just conceptual models, Jeremy. So like I'm going to draw, a square on a map. Then I'm going to take that square that I drew on one map and then transfer it to the other map. But remember, I have to keep it equivalent, right, in order to be a quote-unquote square. But as soon as you transfer it to another projection, you're going to get a distorted square. You understand?
But like in reality, an outer circle is bigger than an inner circle, right? I think that's what he's saying.
Yes, in reality.
Right. So,
yes.
but like,
Prove
so
that, you're not going to use these maps.
Yeah, we would need to measure along the ground obscene distances. That's my
Exactly.
argument. Like, so like all we have is calculated distances, and if we calculate distances based on 60 nautical miles per degree, based on sky arcs, then we're gonna come up globe every time. That's why that 62-18 argument is silly. But I think if we were to measure the real distance between North Pole and the equator on the ground without calculating based on astronomical latitude or assumptions based on the coordinate system, rod and chain that bitch for the whatever, have someone walk it, do the Eratosthenes method and hire a bunch of Bamatis to walk it out in feet or paces or whatever the Roman measurement was. But if we get the distance along the ground, that would be the number you supply to the 2 pi r to get the radius of flat Earth, not the sky arc calculation to try and make that into that curve into a flat line, I think.
Hey, that's neat. But Alan told me we can get ground distances on these maps. So we can't get ground distances on these maps. Then you're saying
you get
But
gratitude distances, right? Like, so flight path distances, well, pretty much what Google Earth says the distance is. That's what you can derive on the map. Same way you could derive that from the Gleason's map if you use the longitude calculator, man.
Yeah, but if you're using Google Earth distances, then it's definitely not a plane because there's basic geometric principles like the diagonal of a square or pi, the radius of a circle that will tell you if you're on a plane or not. So if you're using a globe distances, that's definitely does not work on a flat Earth.
Well, so it's WGS84 distances, right? It's the datum that you put through the coordinate system that gives it meaning. And that the way that we determine distances are very much determined by latitude, longitude spliced with WGS84. That's a whole separate ellipsoid datum that they verify independently, but put forth in the model. So that's why I would be a WGS84 Earther, dude. I don't think there's anything wrong with that model. I think using that conceptual spherical ellipsoid model is very accurate, confirmed by astrogeodesy, which is like the satellites measuring deflection of the vertical, doing all that GPS coordination to make sure everything is accurate to the centimeter. That's just a very accurate conceptual model based on what the observations that we have. I don't think I disagree with that. But that's what's determining distances is latitude, longitude on WGS84. That's the two-layered model that they're using. Doesn't actually mean the surface of Earth is curving. To actually differentiate that, you have to go into how do they confirm geodetic datums and how do you measure meridian arcs, and they always infer it from astronomical latitude anyway.
They do a little bit of actual measurement.
If you have ground distances, hold on, Beast. If you have ground distances, right, and you say, I got these distances on the ground, and then we do the square thing with a diagonal or pi or something, we can be sure if the ground is planar or non-planar, right? You understand that?
That distance is being measured on a sphere. Like, that would be spherical excess. If you put 4 points, like 4 cities on that sphere, and then you start trying to draw them with connecting lines, it'll only fit on the sphere. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that if you have distances, ground distances on the ground, I don't care how you got them. You got ground distances. If we do the diagonal of a sphere, if we do the diagonal of a square, there's a very specific formula that'll tell you if it's planar or not. Same thing with the circle with the radius. There's very specific formulas that'll tell you if this circle was drawn on a plane or on a surface that was curving.
Based on the distances, yeah.
Yeah. Do you understand that?
So based on the distance.
Second time. Do you understand that?
Are you asking me or Shane?
Do I understand that the geometry is a circle? That you can draw lines on a square? That a circle is different than a square?
No. I'll do it one more time.
Yes. No, I understand. Whatever it is, I understand.
You don't understand. You don't even steel man it, bro. Come on. You don't even.
Can I address it, Jeremy? Because dude, you're trying to draw a square, right? Using what? How are you plotting these distances, these points?
Well, don't you think
I
you'd
don't
be
know.
able
They
to do
said
that
they
by
could get ground
calculating?
distances, bro. They said they could get ground distances, not me.
Jeremy, ground distances. Okay, I have point A to point B. How did I get A to point B in terms of an actual distance? What did I use? Let's build this.
I don't know,
square.
but if you're saying that's the distance on the ground, I don't care how you got it. It's irrelevant to me. You're saying this is the distance from A to B on the ground.
No, but Shane explained that a lot of what's being done in terms of like taking elevation angles to stars and calculating. Did you catch when he said all that?
I don't know if it's actually ground distance. See.
Exactly. Thank you. I was trying to get that.
I mean, because Shane, you're not saying like these distances are derived from like chains on the ground, right?
No, but that, like I brought it up by saying that's what I would put the flat Earth radius at, is if we're to measure it along the ground somehow and not invoke the sky in any way. That's where I'd want to be at. But every method we have so far is literally just being like, let's measure a mile. Okay, what latitude are we at? That's how long that line is. Nailed it, guys. Nailed it every time.
Yeah, we're done. Our work here's done. Yeah.
And even if you were to measure like rods and chains over like 70 kilometers, that would barely be enough to differentiate the surface of a sphere versus a plane in literal distance. And then you're down to the accuracy of the instrument and like how much can you really talk about it. But I would like to measure it on the ground. I would like to see what it would be like, because all we have is the sky calc.
How do planes calculate how much fuel to put in their airplane?
Based on the gratitude. Latitude, longitude gives you accurate distances, man. We say this all the time. Like, it's constantly our position.
So, all right. So you agree that you can use fuel calculations and air and the speed of a craft to determine a distance, correct? Crickets.
Determine a distance over.
I mean, this idea that he likes WGS 84. Well, on WGS 84, you can calculate the correct distance, which means the correct fuel load and flight time, or boat time if you want to use a ship and bunker fuel to calculate how long your trip is going to be and how much fuel you're going to use to get between any points on the WGS 84, which is a spherical model. Now, it's impossible for that also to be a flat plane using Euclidean geometry, where you can then map any 2 points on that flat Euclidean world and get the same corresponding values that you do on the WGS 84. Those are two mutually exclusive models, and when you go to the southern hemisphere, it completely falls apart. Which is why there's no flat map that you can put on a table and measure distances on a scale like I've been asking for all this time. That's the precise reason why you can't do that. It's mutually exclusive. It would easily debunk any flat Earth map that you put on a table with an applied scale.
That's why I was going to bring it up, because you guys put planes and you put flight paths into your model, but your flight paths don't calculate the distances, or do the distances change when you flip between globe and your flat model? Because they would have to change.
I don't know.
They would absolutely be longer. No, they are absolutely longer on a flat model. Like you saying they are just crazy fucking batshit, dude.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're calculated on central angle, so it's all the same ratio, which is how it maintains the symmetry in the north and the south. So central angle theorem
and the speed the planes would have to go to do the same thing is like makes you sound crazy.
Yeah, talk right through his answer. Why don't you just go ahead?
Because he doesn't really care. He just wants to make his thing.
He doesn't care. He just wants to be aha.
I mean, it's a good point. So yeah, aha.
Yeah. Pat yourself on the back and move on.
Oh, is that Demon Stride? Hey, man, been a bit.
Shane, do you think we could that it could be possible to get accurate distances building our own like lidar drones, or just using lidar, like our like some kind of like independent lidar? Do you think it'd be possible to get accurate distances using that technology if it was done like independently?
Isn't that kind of like the what's the method that Alan has, the dot scattering thing, where it does like ray tracing around an arc in the sky and it comes up with the same distance as if you were to use Hammerstein? Like, so I think lidar would be a bunch of lasers, right? A bunch of tropospheric lasers fired down, and then you do the radar scanning from that, like echo.
Yeah.
So I mean, like the ray tracing would be exactly that, right? That would, I think, if we started doing distances based on everything but the ground, we get the same thing. Would lidar be directly off of the topography though? Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, they claim you can get it to be quite accurate. Just whether that would work for distances. I mean, I do think these different projections to me, that's the one thing that would have to change. Is my thought would be the distances, because they are kind of all warping in a slightly different way. I mean, the globe one has all the curvature to it, and yeah, like the whole distance is difference, but on a plane. Because like, yeah, if you have like 4 points on a plane or 4 points on a sphere, they'll have different distances, and you can decipher, like, the plane ones won't fit on the sphere and the sphere ones won't fit on the plane. But I mean, I definitely hear what you're saying with how like the whole transform goes on though. Like I think of the sky as like a toroidal sky at this point. So, and toroids have this like spherical geometry to it. So yeah, like the fact that the sky measures that way, you can transform it down onto, different projections, but it just seems like there would be kind of like warping or distortions, on each one. And then there would, I mean, if you have one that's right, then it would be the right fit. And then every other one that's not right would be somewhat warped or distorted from the thing that is right, like the truth, the ultimate truth one versus the ones that are all not quite the truth kind of thing.
Yeah, but like, so what's the perfect coordinate system? Because if it's not the abstract one we use based on the stars, then we're screwed, because the rotation of the celestial sphere that works is the terrestrial sphere, right? Like, that's why it was made. So like, that's how they get away with saying, oh, all the maps are, warping it because Earth's a globe. No, because they're, what's being translated between the projections, what's being actually projected in the projected geometry of maps is the geographic coordinate system, right? Because they're all projective geometry, which is lat long. So that's like the abstract. I keep saying that has no meaning unless you wrap another ellipsoid model through the center, WGS84, give it the actual datum. So like, that's the shape that's being distorted spherically, and that's why one copy of that shape has no distortion. Hey, terrestrial sphere. You could also say it's an orthographic projection of the celestial sphere, which is just as true. But I mean, if we're saying the only way to truly represent that is always going to be a sphere.
Yeah. So what about the difference of, so if you have like in the globe model type thing, they take like the infinite celestial sphere thing with the light years away stars, are treated as generally infinite, and then they're kind of like, and then you have a globe Earth in the center of that, and then you're doing like essentially almost like a 1-to-1 ratio, like a GP basically, but then assuming that those are being plotted on a sphere, versus if you have a planar surface and then the sky has whatever toroidal or spherical or whatever nature it is, but it's above us, like up is up, down is down, always above us, and we're on a planar surface, the way that is viewed, where the stars are just basically GPs, like coming straight down, and then you have all the planar geometry, but that is how it appears. There's still a 1-to-1, but one of them is 1-to-1 down to a plane. The other one is 1-to-1 to the center of a sphere. And then like there is the slight differences there, but at the same time, there's like enough overlap that it seems like that's how they've been able to pull this whole thing off for all these years.
It's 1-for-1, but it's inverted, right? Like this meme in chat, like you can make everything at an infinite distance, so all the actual lines converge somewhere distant that you can't ever verify, or the actual parallel angles that are there that you can see, corpuscular rays and such. And then those two things are equal as observations, but the coordinate system is what makes them inversely proportional. Like, so when you say the celestial sphere, I love that argument because it's a sphere of abstract radius or infinite centered around the observer, literally a hemisphere. The part of the celestial sphere is everyone only sees a hemisphere. It is centered around the observer. Well, then what's the geometric difference between a sphere of infinite radius and a flat plane? And they're geometrically the same. So that's how they get away with that. Let's pretend everything's parallel and infinite away versus everything's really local with their branching corpuscular rays. And that's how I think those things are related. They're inversely proportional, and they just did the swap.
Yep, the good old infinite radius sphere surrounding this. All of a sudden, then you get a little globe Earth in the middle of it.
Yeah. Right. So that's why the model shows that mode specifically. We call that the Ptolemy mode. That's like the basis of what we were putting forward with, all right, well, why does the globe work? Well, it's a conceptual model. It's based on the two-sphere model. It's imagining that the whole world is a sphere beneath the stars. That is a completed sphere that you complete with math. That's really like what we've been saying. That's what Ptolemy put forward, and that's what the globe mode of the model shows so nicely, I think.
I still don't see you answering though. I can take a desktop globe and use a Taylor's tape measure and accurately get the distance to any points on that, any two arbitrary points on that sphere, and get the correct distance, right? So that cannot possibly be compatible with any flat Earth map. So And I just either those distances are not correct, which no flat earther today has demonstrated that any of those distances that I use with my Taylor tape to measure is incorrect, right?
What are you talking about? Like a desktop globe, like not for educational purposes type of
Yeah,
globe?
why?
Those are not very
Yeah,
accurate. I mean, those are
and why
just
are
like
you saying
some of them
right?
are just
Like
like
you're
cartoons.
asking.
Those are cartoons of the Mercator
Well, I mean,
kind of globular projection.
okay, I have a globe. It doesn't say for not for educational purpose. In fact, I've been ever since that flat Earth claim. I have yet to have found a globe that
I'm
says
just
not for
saying, I'm
educational
just saying you're talking about one of those, like not even a real map, but or you're just talking about Google
but it
Earth or
doesn't matter.
something.
Yes, I
You
can take
you
any
haven't
globe and
verified these distances.
any reasonably well constructed globe. I can take a Taylor's tape measure and measure the distances between them, and then compare that against like boat transit times. Look for vlogs of people that sailed it, like in the amateur, in the amateur sailing forums. You look at ship paths. So how long the ships take to get their container ships delivered when they sail at 10 knots, or flight times at 520 knots, whatever that is, and those will all comport, right? There's no flat Earth equivalent to that. Where here's what we think the continents are like on the flat Earth, and then I can just use a ruler and measure those distances, apply a scale, and then have similar comporting data when it comes to flight times, people's actual real world sailing experience, sailing those distances, etc.
That's called a scatter gun, by the way.
Sounds like you don't have an answer.
Called spurging out.
It still sounds like you don't have an answer to the claim he said. You're just trying to divert right now. Weird that you'd even say anything without at least answering his claim.
Hello, Demons, right?
What's going on, Bacon?
I mean, I'm willing to accept that the globe is completely bullshit. That's on my desk, and that it doesn't actually work.
Dude,
If you can show me some data that is bullshit,
dude. You know how like much passion you have for this. You know it's not a globe, right?
Can I ask a question?
That the ancients were right.
Is
so-
Shane still here?
no, he's long gone.
Oh, really?
I think
I thought
Jake,
I heard him just like 2 minutes ago,
maybe Jake ran him off.
didn't I? That's a shame.
Can we unmute Robert, by the way?
I mean, Shane.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
my
Shane, you.
question would be whether that model can possibly be what reality looks like.
Which one?
The one they were presenting.
Which version though?
One that Earth looks like a map.
You talking about like the singular pole type of AE Gleason's?
Yeah, that's the one I saw.
That's not the flat Earth. You got a flat Earth model?
That's what I'm asking. Is any of those supposed to be what reality could possibly look like? If not, then
Most flat Earth.
I don't see any meaning in none of that. If yes, then let's actually validate.
Well, it basically had a single pole AE Gleason's. It had a globe. It had the dual pole equal area projection, the dual pole, and then you had even a tripole in there. I guess it didn't have concave, but I mean that's kind of like an inverted, globe Earth. That's kind of, but yeah.
Or
So
must be disappointing.
which one of those is true? Is it this? Is it?
Yeah, whichever can match reality.
Yeah, dual pole plane, the globe, or the single pole AE Gleason's, or something else.
Yeah, which one can you accurately map out, your fuel usage in a plane? Which one would you use, Gio?
I mean, it's planar, and there does seem to be two poles. Even though I have been in the South, but I've never been to like the Southern Pole or anything. I've never been to Antarctica, but I have been to the South. But so yeah, there's a huge rotation of stars there, and all the stars have a GP. So that would imply that there's a two pole, and then we're on a plane. So stationary, some kind of a two pole plane. I'm not saying that exact map or anything that people talk about, that like dual pole or two pole type map. I'm not saying that's the one or anything. And but I'm just saying like, if you have up is up, down is down, level is horizontal, planar type Earth, and then we have two poles, then yeah, some kind of a two pole system. Unless there's any way around that in terms of like, but that's exactly how the sky seems to be. And it does seem like there is a 90-degree south point. I mean, yeah, I've never been there obviously, but that ALE has a camp there. Also, there's the whole Edmondson Scott base station there. They do have some footage of the 24-hour sun there, and it stays at the same elevation, but I'd like to see some more like independent footage if people go there and do the trip. But that Anthony Powell guy, I think, has he's done 24-hour moons and 24-hour suns from that 90-degree point, he claims. And those are on like Vimeo or YouTube or whatever.
The flight paths don't match the planar Earth model. The distances don't match. So is the explanation from flat earthers and non-globers just not?
Planar model.
All I think they'd have to do, they can pull that off pretty easily, because basically, like, whatever you think came before this current industrialized era, they have GPS now. So whatever, we were all born into this current setup. Even if you think they came from celestial navigation and transferred over, either way, they're running the GPS system at this point. And in order to sell it as a globe, but actually have it be a plane, there are some, areas that would have to be like either fudged or like anomalous. but it's not like, as I've thought deep about it, it's not as much as you might think, to where it's very much within range to what they could do.
What about the South Pole flights though? That would have to travel on the planar Earth. They'd have to go like an extremely, like 3 times the distance and time it would take that they actually do. So people take these flights. So how are they drugging them and then like making time erase for them? Like how is reality shifting for people that take those flights?
No, I would say that, okay, so I don't think there's anything like that happening. I think that there would have to be something going on with the flight system and the GPS system in terms of like all of the official militaristically approved, routes and so on, and how that whole system is timed. And it would have to do with, there would have to be some, like the map is not the territory type of deception, like behind the scene. But everyone who's on the surface just working for those companies, they're just following all the data that they're given to follow, and they're not really checking like the actual like soil, the dirt, like what the dirt is actually doing.
But I'm saying you could have a watch on your wrist, and you could tell the difference in the time it would take to go. And you could also see if you're flying over water or if you're going over land. So if for one, like when you invert this flight path on either the globe or the flat planar thing, it shifts from being over water mostly to being over land mostly. So you can look out of the plane, you can see if there's water underneath you or land, and you can also see how long you are on the plane for. I don't have to rely on any government statistics or them lying to me about anything.
Yeah, and lots of amateur people sail the Southern Hemisphere. I mean, they sail from Australia to New Zealand to South America to Africa. Like, this is not like some secret, right? People sail this all the time. They plan out their food and their water, and they look at their average speed based on the wind, and then they figure out how long it's going to take to sail. I mean, there's not some conspiracy about what these distances are, right? They comport to the Taylor tape on the globe.
Jake, you know how the North, like the AE map, how some people say it matches, somewhat close to the North hemisphere of a globe? Do you agree with that? Just off the bat, do you agree with that?
I mean, the distances are more reasonable because there isn't as much distortion. The distortion increases the further you go from the pole, from the North Pole, on a north-centered Gleason.
Yeah, let's just say north center, just up to the equator, but not past it, just the northern section as it relates to a globe, right? If you're just accepting in general, okay, pretty similar to what would be on a globe, or at least.
But it's still can't capture the idea of the relationship between the circumference and the diameter.
Finish, Jake. Maybe let him finish.
Yeah, if you don't mind, it was just a quick question. I just wanted to, because it's just to get to my point. So
north half of the globe matches the map.
Yeah. So if the northern part of a spherical globe Earth matches the AE map to a degree, right? And there's some, the way the sun travels and the sun position and some factors like that, and maybe close distances or close enough, even though I'm not saying it's exact, etc. Okay, so then if you flip the globe upside down and you go to the southern half, and if you make an AE map from that, then you would get a southern AE map. And then you put both the southern AE map and the northern AE map on a plane, and that would be what would be going on.
It would be completely wrong. The distances wouldn't work at all. If you just took the two flat Gleason maps and you butted them up against each other on a table, you wouldn't be able to do what I'm saying.
Together. Yeah, I'm not saying like just have two circles. They would have to connect at the center, the North Pole, the equator region. Obviously, it wouldn't just be two perfect circles because obviously the equator is like a whole interconnected region.
Can I tell you?
But I'm just saying that when you have like the two hemispheres, if you take the globe one and you put it on an AE map, and then the southern part of the globe, you just expand it outwards. That's kind of what the Gleason's AE map does. But the dual pole has the north and then the south, and they both converge to the two poles. And then you have the equatorial region. So yeah,
Jake, is your sentiment, Jake, that you have two maps with one half of their map incorrect? Is it something like that?
Well, I mean, with any like in any Gleason map, right? The distortion as you go out, the distances, and it's not a 1-to-1 ratio in every direction, right? You could have it be the 1-to-1, going north to south, but then going east to west, it would be distorted. And the further out you go from the center, the more distorted it gets, right? That's the only way to account for the fact that, like on the spherical Earth, the equator is 25,000 miles, but the distance from the North Pole to the equator is, 6,200 miles. Whereas if you just did pi, if it was a flat Earth with a 25,000 mile circumference equator, then you would have to have like a 6,000 mile, right? It would have to be, 25,000 divided by 3.1, right?
A
So you would
39,000 mile circumference or something like that.
Yeah, 4,000 miles, whatever it is. Yeah, it would be, 50% less than it is on the globe. And so in order to account for that on the Gleason, when you have a North Pole centered Gleason, as you move outward, the distances between your longitude lines it's not like a fixed.
Cut out.
You back, Jake?
Did he drop? I think he dropped.
He might have lost connection.
I didn't do it.
It wasn't Rob.
I don't know where
There
I
he
dropped
is. There
in
he
the
is.
middle of
There he
that,
is.
but-
You started to say it's kind of like, and then you dropped off right there.
Yeah, I mean, I was just saying is that with all those Gleason maps, right, as you go out, the scale changes. You can't just like measure with a ruler between points and apply a scale and get a correct distance, right? So they can be right like north to south, which would be like from the center going outward. But if you're measuring like between lines of longitude, then the scale would be increasing. And that was what Jeremy was asking about with the square, right? It wouldn't work on any of Shane's projections because in Shane's projections, it's not like a fixed 1-to-1 value in every direction, right? It's like the scale changes where 1 mile is like, visually 1 mile is like, a quarter of an inch on this part, but on this part, 1 mile could be like 3 inches, right? Like, and that's the problem you get with all these projections, right? Because it's literally like trying to take an orange, peel it apart and lay it down flat and then still have everything connect.
Yeah, I think that's why most people say models aren't reality, or like models are for children to play with. And I think most of us, at least here, are adults, so we don't really play with models and dollhouses, etc. anymore.
Well,
You just have a house.
well,
That's a
I mean,
non-sequitur.
Jake. All right, so Jake, the thing is, okay, if we're being told the truth about what the Earth is, okay, that it is actually a sphere, okay, if that were the case, then there's really like nothing to worry about, right? Like even if you already believe it as well, you would just be like, okay, that's just what it is. If you really believe that was the case, but the thing is, if it's not a sphere, and I'm just being neutral in the conversation, just saying if. Not really saying from my view, I'm just saying, but let's just say so if and so on, but I'm just saying in a neutral way, if it's not a sphere and it is planar and stationary like the ancients have always had as far as we know since the dawn of time, and that is the truth, then it would not make sense that anyone today who was born into the globe world, basically the global society, would have a full map or model unless they themselves mapped or modeled it themselves, because that would imply that the mainstream model that is being sold to the whole world essentially right now is false. So they would have the real one, of course, or whatever they have. Who knows? I mean, all the stuff they can launch up and try to get to high altitudes and to the extents of the Earth, they probably have the best maps anyone's ever seen at this point. And maybe they hijacked a bunch of ancient ones as well. Who knows? And knowledge and information. But anyways, I'm just saying, so when you're asking for like a map and model and trying to understand like we're talking about these general systems, like a single pole, dual pole. He even had that 3-pole one in there. And then there's the globe one. So, I mean, it would make sense, unless somebody has independently gone out and spent all the money and all the time and energy to actually map or model the world, it would make sense that we're in like an authentic process of discovery, of rediscovering what the Earth is.
I mean, it's just, I think what you guys are doing is reinventing the wheel. And the thing with Shane, to be clear, based on the presentation, from as much as I could interpret it, is he's not presenting like, this is my version of a flat model, this is my version of a globe model, this is my version of, whatever hybrid model. For me, from what I understood, is they're just taking the globe model and the coordinates of WGS 84. And then what the software is doing is just doing a coordinate transform and basically showing you a projection of various different coordinate transforms. But that's still the spherical WGS 84 model. That's why he said it doesn't matter. He says the distances, they're all the same on all the models, right? And that confused many of the people in the server, because then they're like, well, no, they can't be, right? That's what Jeremy was saying. Well, no, they can't be, because then the diagonal with the square. But what Jeremy is I think missing there is that this is a coordinate transform. So when he does a projection, it's distorted in such a way that it's not like 1-to-1. Like 1 mile is not 1 mile from every direction in any direction on any point on the projection. As you move on the projection, depending on where you are in the projection and the direction that you're measuring, you're going to get a different value for the same visible distance, right? So if it was like printed out and you use the ruler, you wouldn't be able to just apply a 1-to-1 scale where every inch is a mile or whatever. It would be like over here, 1 inch is like 10 miles, but over here, 1 inch is 1 mile. And so I wouldn't even consider what Shane did as like, oh, these are a few different models that we figured out that maybe the flat Earth could be this. And he's not claiming that is, because we asked him that. He's just saying these are just various different projections of the globe WGS 84.
What he's doing right and what you're saying is right. This is what these tools reveal to us. So because of we have these tools, we could visually see, at least compared to the global mainstream humanities paradigm, which is all measurable data that we have based. So these models and tools can reveal these discrepancies. Even put the globe to the side, even just one flat Earth one compared to the other. So this is what you're saying is true.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone, Jake, is really claiming they have the exact correct map of Earth. Like, at least not in here recently or anything that I'm thinking of. You know, is that what you're thinking? You know, is anyone claiming they have the correct map of the whole Earth, other than just going with the globe one or whatever?
I don't think Shane is claiming that this is one possible model of the flat Earth. I don't think he's making that claim. I think he's just saying this is the WGS-84 with the coordinate projection as a flat plane.
That's the problem that I think I share with what Jake's saying, is that this isn't even supposed to try to be a viable model of flat Earth. So it doesn't lead us anywhere. Like, it's just meaningless. It's just a display. It's not a model.
No,
it's just what map makers do all the time when they choose a particular projection to publish their maps on a flat piece of paper. It's what Shane did.
I mean, this is you guys' opinion. You want to say it's meaningless? It's meaningless for you. Others are deriving meaning from it. So.
Okay, that part, yeah.
Isn't the whole point to show the kinematic equivalence between all of them?
That's not a kinematic equivalence. Every time you switch the position of the observer, you also shift the position of where the stuff you're seeing is.
You mind if I say something for a second? Can I jump in?
You already did.
Well, I think Gio mentioned earlier, independently mapping the whole Earth. Every day, there are thousands of flights and ocean liners moving around the whole globe. It's happening every day. I mean, every day the Earth is verified by all of these flights and boats. So it's not something like hard to do. It's every day. If there was something wrong, they would figure it out. So it's not hard to figure out that the Earth is the Earth. That's all.
Okay, I'll rebut that briefly. I'll just say, so there's the whole GPS system, which runs through the military. Obviously, in other countries have their own militaristic and so on going on with the whole GPS system. So, I mean, that's all like developed through the military. And then, yeah, we are given, you know, the GPS equipment. And then in terms of like flight routes and even boating routes, now, it would be impressive to me if somebody had data where they went out on their own, like they didn't use GPS, they didn't even use anyone else's maps, and they did something independent, like either with celestial navigation or measuring distances on the ground. But I mean, what modern people have gone out there in this current setup and actually gone out and verified some of these things on the Earth? You know, a lot of people kind of take it for granted at this point. And yeah, so that's the thing that would have to be, verified, because GPS, like when you're talking about like shipping routes and flight routes, those are all running through a system, and the people who are working those jobs are using a lot of GPS equipment to follow what the GPS is telling them to do. They're not necessarily independently mapping the Earth. So what I'm saying is that I think it's possible to be able to like sell a globe Earth model to people, but actually map that with the alterations that would need to be done, the adjustments, into what they call the global positioning system to position you on the flat plane and then transfer it onto the conceptual model of the sphere Earth. And there would have to be some fudging in between there. And that's what we'd have to discover, how that, you know, where that is basically, like, because there would have to be some differential, but it can be done. So I think that those shipping and flight routes are already like connected to those transforms that have been done, and then the ones that have been officially, you know, being used by the governments that approve these, you know, companies and everyone to have all the equipment and everything that's running.
But Jill, people have been retiring or having midlife crises, buying sailboats and sailing the world like forever, basically, right? You can go to any big harbor anywhere in America and look at boats for sale where someone has sailed around the world in that boat. And these people were doing this before GPS was even available, right? And like I have a friend who's planning to retire. He's already got a little map of all the places he's going to sail. And they're predicting how long it's going to take, how much food and water they need to bring. And all this stuff is comporting to a distance that cannot be some massive lie and have all those distances between just absolutely arbitrary points that people choose to sail to, right? They want to go from here to the Cape of Africa to here. Like, it's just, I think just saying, oh, well, it's the big man and the shipping, they control the shipping and they control the GPS. No, people just sail these distances.
And if I could add on to that, if I may, Jake, also, the distances, we know what they are and we know how long it takes. So if you want to go drive in your car and I want to drive from LA to San Francisco, I can judge how long it's going to take me based on how many miles it is, and it comports with the odometer of my car. So we don't have to depend on the government.
Yeah, people fly personal aircraft as well, where they have to calculate their fuel usage. I mean, these things aren't hard to think about, but the fact that you haven't, I'm going to go on mute. Fuck this.
I feel your pain, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not contesting.
Rebuttal, yeah.
I'm not contesting road. I wouldn't contest road distances from LA to San Francisco or something. Yeah, I've done plenty amount of driving. You can use your odometer in your car, but those can all be planar grids and still mapped into the larger like globe compilation when you do longer distances. And of course, they're going to be accurate within cities and areas that are populated. The obviously like anomalies would be probably out in the oceans, and if you talk about how the continents are all laid out. Because you can have the GPS working on like local planar square grids and then just put into a conceptual spherical system, and then you get into the geodetic surveying and how that transfer is done into how they plot all of the cities and countries in terms of like property lines for taxing and all that.
Well, I mean, there's people, and I know many people that have taken a private sailboat and left California and sailed to Hawaii, and they never used any GPS other than to track storms, but not to navigate their way there. And they, it's not like it's some hidden secret that it's a certain distance. Everyone knows how far it is. It's been measured.
I know. Yeah, I'm not really doubting that either. Like that general distance. Although, how accurate were they getting? Because the difference between a plane and a sphere, that's the thing. If you're talking about big distances like that in the oceans, that's a whole other thing. But that's pretty cool. You knew people who actually sailed there. You said all the way from California to Hawaii?
Yeah, I have one guy who does a YouTube vlog. I can even post a link if you want that sails everywhere. One of my goals in life is to do what Jake said, is when I get older, I want to just sail around all through the Caribbean and just cruise from island to island. One of my goals in life when I get older.
You young stallion, you.
Take it easy, IC Spin. I only got eyes for you, buddy.
I know. That's adorable.
That's the life.
Anyways, I mean, look, I understand what your point is, Gio, that you could say that everything's a big conspiracy, but it's a pretty tough nut to crack that to be that big of a fucking conspiracy. You know what I'm saying? It's tough. It's everybody would have to be in on it. And that's
how about but if we're talking about GPS, the military, CIA, FBI, etc., would you really be surprised if that's a conspiracy? The military?
Well, they have a different GPS than we do. They have a secret GPS that they don't let us use.
But I don't need to use any GPS. We don't need to use. We could figure out these distances on our own. We don't have to use any GPS. You know what I'm saying? It's not like we have to use their secret system. Anyone could figure it out on a private plane, a private boat, driving from. I could drive from here to New York. You know, I mean, it's like there's so many things you could do to do. You don't have to like depend on the government.
Yeah, but you're not getting A to B distances from driving, though, right?
What do you mean? Why not?
Well, there's two different distances. One of the distances, there's two different distances when it comes to distances. One of them is the A to B distance, the straight line or level line or whatever you want to call it. You know, the one where you don't turn left or right and you don't go up or down. You just go straight across, whether level's curving or not, whatever, it'd be a level distance. And then the other one is the one you actually travel. That's a different distance.
Okay. What's the point?
You're saying we can get the distances by doing the latter, but that's not the distance, though.
Well, are you saying because you're taking a road and it curves here and there? So let's say you took the 10 freeway across from LA to Jacksonville, Florida. It's pretty fucking straight. You know, it might be a curve here or there, but we know that distance. It's like, it's not like it's a big conspiracy. Like, and we can tell how long it's going to take based on the speed we drive and how many hours a day we drive. I mean, you can figure this out on your own. It's not like you don't need the government, dude. It's just something you can figure out on your own.
Yeah, then you would get the distance you traveled. You want to get the A to B distance, though.
As I mentioned, I was taking a example of the 10 freeway, which pretty much goes straight across the United States. There's no really any curves in it. So it's pretty straight. And just go straight across.
It's pretty straight, or so there's no left or right turns?
Well, I mean, I think there's a section in New Orleans where it shoots around a little bit, but the bottom line is what I'm saying is that as you're driving across the road and you're traveling at 70 miles an hour, right? And let's say you drive for 10 hours and you average 70 miles an hour. You know how many miles you drove, and you can verify that with your odometer. So you could.
Yes, you would get the distance you traveled. Yes, that is not the same as the A to B distance.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
This isn't a hard concept to grasp, my man. I don't know how you don't get it.
The distance you traveled is the A to B distance. That's what I'm talking about.
No, you didn't. You just told me the road turned. Also, you'd have to be never changing elevation. Is that what the road does? The road doesn't change elevation at all?
Oh, God, I don't understand. I mean, maybe you don't understand what I'm saying. It's okay.
You don't understand what I'm saying. I'm saying there's an A to B distance, and then there's the distance you travel, which is not the same because you're changing elevation throughout the course of the trip. You're also turning left or right throughout the trip. Like you're not doing the A to B distance. Do you understand that or no?
I do
Do
understand.
you understand that, or
Jeremy, I
no?
understand, but I do understand, but what you're saying is a completely different thing than what I'm saying. When you're planning out a trip, okay, you're not calculating an A to B distance. You're calculating the distance you have to travel on the roads you travel. If you're looking at a map, there's a scale on the map, okay, and you could calculate the A to B distance using that scale. Okay, but I'm talking about the distance you travel. Okay, I understand the A to B distance, and you can calculate that too based on a scale that's on a map, which Jake showed earlier, or somebody showed earlier. There's a scale, and you can use a measuring tape and like a set of blueprints. There's a scale and says 1 inch equals so much, and you can calculate the distance between two points in a straight line based on a scale.
That's not responding to what Jeremy's saying.
That is 100%.
No, it's not a
No, he's
response
saying-
at all.
he's saying-
100% not a response, Bacon. Talk to him.
Yeah, he's saying we need to measure the AB distance. You're saying we are not doing that when we're planning a trip. Okay, then we're not doing what we need to be doing. That's what he's saying.
I said you can measure an A to B distance using a scale on a map.
But that's not measuring. Like that's you calculating, assuming the map is accurate.
But you can't. But you can. Okay.
Yeah, even Bacon's not on your side. That's when you know you're not. It's not good. You're going to be good for you.
So you've never taken a road trip anywhere, Jeremy?
Bacon's not even on your side, my man.
I don't even care what Bacon says. I'm asking you.
Well, yeah,
just a road trip.
Oh, I mean, Bacon's top 2, so you might want to care.
No, but wait, who's your question though? I mean, it's a valid question. I think he's asking about maps. He's asking about Google Maps, right?
Car trip, yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to drive from wherever you live to a certain place, you check and see how far it is, and you could corroborate that with the actual time it takes you to get there.
Yeah, I agree. So that's an odometer speed or an odometer measurement, let's say from your car, and if you're using your GPS. I hear you on that, but that's like road distance. So basically, if you think of all like the public roads that you would take a trip like that on, of course you are going to get on and off and get gas and have to get on the entry and exit way and so on. That'll be a little bit of extra. But either way, like you're measuring the actual road distance, and roads can have, all kinds of elevation changes and different terrain and so on, versus the actual like Earth itself. If we're talking about over the large distances, in terms of the geometry of the actual Earth versus the actual road. And yeah, it is the elevation changes, but even all just the slope and elevations, throughout all the roads are not the same as like what Jeremy, I think, was trying to say with the A to B distance, like that straight line distance. That's a much trickier. Let me finish. That's a much trickier thing to get. And that straight line distance, I would even add in and say, that's the one that really matters. Like, what is the actual distance rather than all of this like adjusted and so on, adjusted kind of calculations.
I understand what he's talking about, and you could, like I said, you can measure that with the scale on the map. But unfortunately, there's not a road that just goes straight like that. So if you want to talk about A to B distances, then that would be something that you could test on a boat or on a plane because they fly A to B distances.
Well, there's massive problems.
That's what I was saying before.
I don't know if you know how boats or planes. I don't know if you know how boats or planes get distances, but you're going to have a massive problem with that also.
I don't think so.
Do you know what VMG is, or a do you know what VMG or do you know what VMG or a pedo tube is?
They fly a great circle route.
Do you know what VMG or a pedo tube is?
I'm talking about it. You're taking a plane from LA to New York. Okay.
Okay. Do you know what a pedo tube is?
You're talking about how to measure airspeed, right, Jeremy?
He doesn't even know. I know.
I don't want to fall into this trap.
Or something like
you guys
that.
always try to do gotcha. I don't want to do that.
It's not a gotcha. You just don't know what you're talking about, and it's obvious. Also, planes are going up and down and left and right. I don't know if you knew that, but planes aren't traveling in that A to B distance either.
The majority of their flight, they are.
They're definitely not. They actually admit that they're turning the plane.
Yeah, they're adjusting like the whole time, and they can make all kinds of little adjustments. That's why I think this can be occurring.
Well, the computer is making the adjustments for them, but it's using the vanes, right? The pendulous vanes to reset for the gyroscopes.
Not on a jet, not on a modern jet, but
they're not a modern jet. They don't have those anymore.
Are they built into the gyroscopes nowadays?
They're correcting for Coriolis. They're straight up admitting they're not flying in the line where you don't turn left.
Well, Coriolis isn't a factor for an airplane because it has engine. It's very, very small.
That's
very, very small.
That's crazy.
Look,
it is a factor, and they do have to turn left or right.
When you fly from New York to London, okay, there's a certain amount of time it takes to get there. You know how many the speed that the plane flew. Okay, so you can calculate how far it is. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's like you want to get down to like, oh, the plane traveled an extra mile because it flew around a curve. I mean, come on, Jeremy, seriously?
It's not about going around a curve. Even if it was going around a curve, that's fine. but you would have to stay at the same elevation and not turn left or right to get the A to B distance. You're not following. I don't know what your problem is.
No, I'm following. I don't think you're following. This A to B distance. I don't understand what you mean. How's anyone going to travel in a perfectly straight line?
So you're not following.
How's somebody going to travel and never move off course in a perfectly straight line?
I'm following so well. I have no idea what you mean.
I'm following. I just don't understand what you're saying. I know.
Well, it can be just that you're talking past one another.
I mean, people.
Well, are you following me or do you not understand which one?
Say it one more time, Jeremy. I think I understood what you were saying, but say it one more time so I can clarity.
Yeah, there's two different distances. There's two different distances from if you want to go from LA to New York, let's say. There's the A to B distance, right? That's going to be one distance. And there's going to be the distance you travel. That's going to be a different distance. It's not really complicated.
In a car or a plane, it's still within a couple hundred miles of one or the other.
Well, it depends. Well, so the way that you travel is going to be on a great circle. If you're saying based on looking at a projection of the globe, then it's going to look different, right? Like I don't know if that's what you're going for.
No, what he's saying.
Don't even travel. The planes don't even travel in a great circle route, though. They do in the air in the non-inertial frame, but actually for a plane, they're calculating for the Coriolis effect, so they're actually turning the plane left
to maintain the great circle.
Do you have a source for that, Jeremy, or is that just something you heard?
Yeah, whatever forces they're overcoming are minimal in my understanding, but they are flying a great circle. Regardless, they're overcoming the forces that could potentially deviate them from that great circle.
Yeah,
because they're all about saving money, right?
They're flying in a great circle route on the ground, but in the air, in the inertial frame, they're not traveling a great circle route. They're actually turning.
I'm unqualified to actually contest that, but someone else can.
Yeah, this is a more complex, nuanced argument, because it gets down to how potentially like a great circle route, as perceived on a globe, is actually a slightly left to right or right to left arc path on a planar surface. Jeremy, were you leading towards that as a component of that as well? How the great circle route changes to like essentially left to right curved paths across a plane, in which they claim they're accounting for Coriolis, the rotation of a sphere, but they're actually just making an actual arc shape on the ground.
That's crazy that you think that planes are constantly turning left or constantly turning right. Like you guys are real like taking stupid juice tonight.
In reality, they are.
If I may,
they don't go perfectly straight. They don't go perfectly straight. It's very difficult. We've talked about what it would take to even do that. Even if you own your own jet and you want to do it yourself, like just think about it, or even put forth a theory right now how you would do it. You have your own private jet. How do you fly straight and make sure you're going perfectly straight without making any changes?
Well, first you have to prove that they aren't. First, you'd have to like cite something that says that they are, to like you guys claim that they're constantly making a constant right or left turn. Just provide that evidence other than the claim you're making, and then we can go from there. But until you do that, why would I do extra work for you?
No, that's the default position. If you're saying they fly straight, you're the one who claims they don't curve. So you'd have to show that they're flying perfectly straight.
No, you're the one. Oh my God, dude. All right, so we both don't have to present evidence. We could just both speculate. That's perfectly fine. Absolutely. But I can show you. The difference is I can show you actual references.
That's not what I said. So
I have references.
Something I didn't say.
Oh my fucking God, bro. The difference being, the globe position on great circle routes and airplanes. There's evidence to back it up. There is none for your position. Do you see the difference?
Okay, first of all, what is my position without straw manning it?
Okay, don't start that, Gally.
Shut up, Robert. You're gonna.
Don't start that. I don't like when you do that. You ruin everything. You ruin it when you do that, dude.
I was having a conversation with somebody.
No, Gally wasn't paying attention. The argument was about Coriolis.
Dude,
which side are you arguing for? Are you making a new argument?
What you guys do?
Hold on. One thing, Demon Stride, your mic quality is really bad right now. We can hardly hear you. It's like extremely muffled. I don't know if you're able to change your headset or something, or whatever you got, but it is.
Oh, I definitely can, yeah.
If you can.
Isn't it reasonable if someone says, your position is this, and that's what I'm refuting? Isn't it reasonable to ask that person, what is my position that you think you're refuting? How is that not reasonable?
How about that? How about I just say you're a glober and you can then rebut it and say, no, my position is this. You're arguing for globe right now. How about that?
That doesn't answer my question.
I don't care. Then state your fucking position.
I know you don't care because you're bad faith. You said that my position entails a certain thing, so I was asking you, what position do you think you're refuting?
Well, it sounds like you weren't listening to this whole argument between several different people. Were you just snoozing the last 5-10 minutes?
No, I've been sitting here listening to Jeremy talk about it and Geo. Dude, shut up. I'm listening to Jeremy and Geo talk about it, where even on a globe, they're not flying in a straight line, and you just repeatedly say, stop interrupting.
That's the claim, exactly. So which one are you arguing for?
Have you guys ever had a conversation with people in real life where, like, you're talking to somebody, you think you just start speaking down their throat while they're speaking?
All right, let's just chill. Demon's Try. I don't know that he said that. I don't know if he made any specific claims. Did you, Gally? I don't think he did.
No, Gio, he didn't. He was talking about what you guys said, and then Gally came in, and this whole thing went because what happens is Gally, you know what Gally does, and he eggs people on, and it turns down to a whole black hole. So let's just jump past it. Let's go back to what Jeremy was saying with this A to B route. That's what we were talking about. Can I go back to that?
You're trying to censor my ability to converse because you're a liar and a slanderer. But anyways, what Gio and Jeremy were saying was that even on a globe, the planes don't fly in a straight line. And then someone said, oh, you have to substantiate that. Why would you have to substantiate that? You know that they don't fly in a straight line.
Wait. I have a question. What do you mean by a straight line? Like, what coordinate system are we talking about here?
By the way, no, I just for myself, I didn't really necessarily assert. I don't have any.
No, great. We're not going to clarify.
What's that, bro? Go ahead. What was your question?
My question is, what coordinate system are we talking about? Because when you say straight line, what do you mean straight line? Like, what are we arguing about?
All right, so we're talking about we were talking about flight paths and shipping routes, and also that's connected to the Great Circle route, which is claimed to be the shortest point of between 2 points on a sphere. You know, which is essentially like you're arcing over the curvature, but you're not turning left or right.
Gio, can I say? I'd like to propose
arguments. And then Jeremy has his arguments based around, like the following the target and then Coriolis and airplanes. And I also added on to that the idea that, yes, like on a planar surface, these are actually left to right, slightly curved paths. And that's how they account for it and map it to be the Great Circle routes and sell it as the sphere model, even though it is the planar. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it would be fruitful to go back to that, to be honest. That's my suggestion, like Robert said. But
so I want to ask Jeremy or whoever these flat earthers are, like, what coordinate, like when we're talking about the pathways, right? You are talking about the coordinate system, latitude, longitude, are you not? Yes or no?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. So it's always reference to the sky or to GPS. We were talking about if you could actually fly in a straight line and actually go in a perfectly straight line, because you could actually decipher a lot that way. Then we were talking about.
Before we start talking about the straight line, we are talking about the coordinate system, latitude, two different latitudes, two different longitudes on a point, on a sphere. I know you don't believe in a sphere, but that's what we're referring to, right?
Can I jump in for a second?
If you want to map it that way, like if you want to use the what's called right ascension declination of the stars, then project that down to the ground as a latitude longitude, you could do that. If you're not going to use the stars at all, then you'd have to either make a map or.
No, you use the stars for the latitude, and the longitude you just use some reference coordinate system. I think it's like from Paris or some shit. Starting at 0.
Skeptic guy, if I may, I just wanted to finish what I was saying, and I'll let you go. I just want to finish what I was talking about with Jeremy.
No, it's cool. You guys can talk. It's cool.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I just the point A to point B thing, and I think Jake had jumped in for half a second on that as well. Is that obviously the distance traveled from a point A to point E, but direct route. There's going to be a slight difference, but it's going to be within a few hundred miles. It's not going to be off by thousands of miles. So that was what I wanted to say. Is that of course I understand what Jeremy's saying. Point A to point B, but the distance traveled obviously is going to be slightly different than that because there's curves, there's move around, whatever. Yeah, of course you get off, you can take a piss, or if you're flying on the plane, it makes a circle around the airport a couple times, but it's within the margin of a few hundred miles. That's it.
May I add to that just quickly? What it actually is, though, is if you look at what they're doing, right? They're in the business of saving money, which is making money. And they're going to fly the shortest route. There are going to be deviations for storm systems, unexpected.
That you're talking about here.
But
No, this might be
and
connected to that argument. Sorry to interject this real quick. Sorry, and I'll let you keep going. This might be connected to the idea that, yes, that Jeremy has often referred to, and the idea that they're not flying the shortest route. Like, in order to lie to us about the globe. Now, I'm not speaking for Jeremy, but I'm linking part of that in, that they're actually not flying the shortest routes. But yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, no, that'd be a great place to take the next part of the conversation. But again, I mean, thinking as a human, right? They're interested in making money. They're going to fly the shortest route that they can on a globe. If you guys are to do an internal critique and look at it from what we're saying, they're going to fly a great circle. It just is going to be that, or as close to it as possible, because that's going to save them the most money, aka make them the most money. So we have to look at the deviation from that and compare it to reality, and then we have to decide like what's going on.
Well, the reality is, if we're mapping the sphere on a 2-coordinate latitude, longitudes, the shortest path is never going to be always going to be where the same latitude lies and the longitude are intersect, because reality doesn't work that way. It's always going to be the great circle route on a sphere. It will always be the case.
And so I think what Jeremy was saying is that it deviates from what Jeremy, I think, and Geo might be alluding to, is the fact that it deviates from that to some significant degree. Is that the case, Geo? I think maybe you're letting Jeremy speak on it. Well, I was going to say,
Jeremy,
I was saying,
were you asking him? I don't know what. Sorry, I was.
Oh well, it seemed like you were alluding to the fact that Jeremy's argument was something to do with that it deviates to some significant degree from what the Great Circle is, and there might be an argument there for us to look at or kind of explore.
Well, no, I mean he's partly referring to the way you'd have to like lead the target. Like if you were on a sphere and the target was actually moving, you would have to lead the target, and then with the Coriolis and so on, like are they actually not flying the shortest routes? I mean, he can speak for himself. I think he claims he has an argument he thinks is like pretty much 100% for that. I then was adding on to it of the idea, because I've said this too, just in speculating on that or going further. Because when you look at, like, okay, take for example the globe Earth, and you know how your longitude lines are all going straight north to south. And if you go on one of the longitude lines, you know how you don't turn left or right, you just keep going straight, but you are going around the ball on any longitude line.
Any longitude line,
Correct.
sure, I can stick with you, but there are going to be corrections if it's not the Great Circle.
Right,
You're talking about flying a longitude that's not the equator, am I right?
Well, no, that's a latitude. I'm talking longitude north to
A
south.
longitude. Okay, excuse me. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
any
with
of
you.
those north to south ones. Yeah. They're all great circle routes. Latitude lines. Okay, the equator is a great circle route, but every other latitude line is actually a small circle route, is what they're called on the globe. It's like 45 degrees, 30 degrees, whatever. They're all small circle routes, but that stays at a latitude. However, the equator is the only latitude that happens to also be a great circle route, and then all the longitudes are great circle routes.
So when you're looking at a flight, let
me finish what I'm saying. But if you take the sphere, and then if you look at the dual pole, and if you see how the longitude lines are actually like coming out from each of the pole and then arcing out to the equator and then arcing back in, that is what would make up for that equivalency.
Are you sort of comparing what the sun might do to what a non-great, or like you called it, a small circle might do in transition to fly its great circle or something? I'm trying to envision what you're saying. Like, is that how the sun is?
Longitude line is this. If I'm talking about the dual pole planar versus the globe, the longitude lines on the globe are all great circle routes where you would not turn left or right. You would just be flying straight north to south on a globe. If you take that spherical coordinates and you put it down onto a plane with two poles, not the north or south way, but you put it down, the stereographic way, the two poles. What I'm saying is that all those longitude lines are now slight arcs that go from like the South Pole, it arcs out and then goes to the North Pole. You've seen that like magnetic field pattern where they all arc out from the center.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is that a great circle route longitude on a globe, which is not turning left or right, at least on that dual pole one, the way the electric field and the way the whole sphere would be going down to a two-pole plane as it's to the plane of existence in that way, then you would end up with these longitude lines that are actually not straight. And if you were flying them on the ground, you would have to slightly turn. I'm not saying.
Why would you follow?
I'm not saying that isn't what it is.
Let him finish.
The equivalent of the coordinate. It'd be the equivalent of the coordinates of longitude lines on a sphere and how they would transfer to being on a plane instead of a sphere, and the differences.
Yeah,
between.
I mean, you're self-defeating yourself, because when you look at the flight paths on a globe, they're straight, but when you put them on a flat map, they're curved. So I agree with you. When you change your projection, you're going to see a distortion. But we don't fly curved paths, and that's the proof that the flight path is straight. And it matches when you're on a globe and you take a piece of string and you go from point A to B. Now, if you're going horizontally across America and you're following one of those latitude lines, those curve, but you wouldn't follow one of those in a plane. You would go straight.
That claim, we don't fly curved paths, that's the proof that the flight paths are straight. It's completely circular.
Okay, well, all right. Hopefully, Jeremy's going to present evidence that we constantly, that planes constantly curve. So if you had that first, the second part would follow, but it doesn't follow because you don't have that first.
I think there are micro.
Had a better argument.
Well, I think there are.
Airlines are profit driven, and profit driven entities would take like the shortest or cheapest route, and the shortest route on a globe is a great circle. Airlines fly great circles, therefore the globe is confirmed by economic incentive. That was IC Spin's argument, which is pretty solid.
What I would say,
but your argument is just
one small adjustment. Sorry, go ahead.
A straw man of what Jeremy was saying. And also,
well, no, I'm asking Jeremy to present the evidence.
You guys suck so much. That's my argument.
Well, why don't you hold? How about you hold a position instead of taking someone else's position and arguing for them? Because I'd fucking rather not do that with you.
I didn't do that. I was let me make one your claim, and I was ready to refute what IC Spin
Nobody
said.
wants you to critique.
Robert, you're getting muted, man. You are such a scumbag.
Guys, let's keep it positive.
All I wanted to say was I agree with what Demonstrad said. One thing I would say is that there are micro adjustments that do need to be made to maintain that great circle.
I agree. But there's not a constant turn that's happening, which is the claim.
Let me
I agree.
All right, so let me say something. Let me say something on that. Sorry. Okay, so if you're in the airplane and you're going over a sphere, let's say, you know how the 1 degree per 69 miles? Well, it would be that. That's what it'd be. So every 69 miles, your plane would, be tilting 1 degree as you go around the sphere. And they claim like you can't really notice it. It's like very minimal. It's like only 1 degree every 69 miles. And so on and so forth. And you can do the speed and time. Some of the calculations, it is like every few minutes you're changing degree, but depending on how fast you're going. But okay, so let's just say you can't tell the tilt thing. Okay, well, if you were flying over a planar surface and you were actually turning to the right 8 inches per mile squared or to the left 8 inches per mile squared, so now it's 1 degree every 69 miles to the left or 1 degree every 69 miles to the right. So now you're doing a horizontal. If you can't tell that you're tilting around the sphere, can you tell that you're tilting left to right?
Yeah, because planes tilt their nose down the same way boats do when they go over the horizon and around the globe. That's not something, and they even fly nose up for the most part. But if you were to be turning constantly, you could visually see it by taking a glass of water, drawing a horizontal line on it, and setting it down. The moment you start to constantly turn in one direction, that water is going to tilt a little bit. And if it's tilted by 1 degree, you should be able to calculate that.
That's not actually true on a plane with a coordinated turn, just to be clear.
I do want to hear Galley's refutation of my argument, though, because you said that you had something against flying the profit-driven route, I guess.
Yeah, right. You said that airlines are profit-driven, and that any type of profit-driven entity would have to take the shortest or cheapest route. Why wouldn't they? That's fine. Shortest route on the globe is a great circle. Airlines fly great circles, therefore economic incentive would be like evidence that it's a globe, right? Like that's your argument.
Sure.
Do you guys an accurate steel man of your argument, or do you think that?
No, that's good. That's perfect. I wouldn't change it.
Right. Awesome. So the globe exclusive route would be my main issue. So like there's a reification just in the premise. So like the first issue I would take is that if you were to use the idea of a globe exclusive route, that's doing enormous work for the conclusion of your argument. So the premises that follow from that. So like the route is not globe exclusive. The exact same path would plot on a different projection. Like the projection itself doesn't determine whether or not that route is actually like the most economic viable route. So the argument assumes what's trying to prove before it even gets started. So a profit maximizing airline flies the shortest path between 2 points. So what geometric model best describes why that path is shortest That's a separate and entirely open question. It's not exclusive. The airline is not confirming the globe. It's confirming that it prefers short paths. That's not the same claim, though.
But when you couple that with actual flight paths,
can I
go ahead.
I'll let you go. Can I ask you, Callie, do you think that we can actually determine the routes that we fly in reality?
To some extent, and then we can, to some extent, map them onto different projections.
Do you think we can map them onto the globe just as well as any projection of the globe?
Yeah, I think the paths map onto the globe. They map onto different projections, but the paths themselves aren't proof of the globe.
But they are a way of they are a way of checking our homework, though, right? And to some extent.
I mean,
Yeah,
the way
so
I
does
see it,
anyone
like,
else with any projection, though. I mean, you could just say, well, they would do that on a concave Earth, so therefore it's proof that it's a concave Earth, right? Like you never make that argument. So like, obviously, you'd never make the argument that it's a globe from that.
Well, what we could do is we could look at what they flew. We could put them onto different projections, and we could look at which one is the shortest, right? And we could do that a lot of times for a lot of different routes and see sort of kind of how it plays out. That's simply my argument. I'll leave it because I know Demon's had something to add, but I know you were going to go first, Gio, I assume, but that's where my argument stands.
Can I respond real quick
right,
to
well-
IT Spin, and then unless Gio, you want to say what
You can have the last word too.
Well, my thing's just a little interjection. I mean, Gal, if you want to respond to him, but just basically that if the stars are mapped onto a sphere, it's like from the star to an assumed sphere, and every point on the sphere they're mapping, or on the ground they're mapping it. But then are they only assuming curvature, or is the curvature actually there? So I mean, you can map it because the sky has that spherical nature. You can assume you're mapping it to a spherical ground, but is the ground actually sphere or not? And that's where the differences in distance would come in, and so on. Like, what you're actually mapping it to, because on a planar surface, whatever the sky is, it could have totally the hemispherical or spherical things to it, but you're just mapping the stars like down directly to the ground, and you're not assuming any curvature. Level just stays horizontal. And the difference between the level and horizontal and the level is curved is different, sphere versus plane, but it's enough in the middle there that I think they're able to kind of blend it enough to sell it to humanity like this as a globe.
From the way I see it, based on how distances, the way they work.
I'd like to.
Sorry, am I off? Sure.
Can I? Yeah. Can I hear
Gally was going to maybe respond to ISIS.
All right, my bad. Go on.
Yeah,
and he let me go, and I maybe
my bad.
He's got the last word on this, and then someone else can go. Yep.
So essentially, what you said was similar to what I was going to say, but when you're on a plane, I mean the airplane, the stuff that you have access to, right? You have a window that shows the sky or cloud or the ground. You could have a screen that shows an animated map, which is generated by globe model software, and it's usually internally consistent. You have a stated departure city and arrival city. You have a clock telling you how long you've been in the air. You have an announcement telling you the altitude. Every single one of these things, they're not independent, like specific proofs of a globe. It's when we smash them all together and we say like, oh, they're all true to this degree of accuracy. And then we take that and we say, that's proof of evidence of a globe to a certain degree of accuracy. I just wouldn't say it's a very good argument of the exclusivity of globe. And then when you have the margin of error of globe versus not globe, or not necessarily globe, if you guys know what necessarily means in an argument, none of this independently confirms the path actually taken over the surface of the totality of everything. Every single one of them is either a model, output, or like a local instrument reading. That'd be my main critique of the claim. I don't think it's a bad claim. That's why I brought it up to IC Spin. I don't think it's a bad claim. I would just say that there's some non-independent, independent calculations that we're sort of mashing together to make an argument for a totality claim.
Yeah, in lieu of a response, I'm gonna let someone else take over. I do have something I'll add to it later if it comes up, but I'm good for now. Thank you.
Thanks.
So what is the argument for planes curving then, if that's the case? What would be the argument? Is the argument that they can continue the globe lie by curving planes to match math that nobody cares about in the real world? Like, is that the actual argument that you're making for planar Earth and why planes curve and they do actually match distances, but they don't? Like, what's the full argument?
Okay, if you're asking me, well, I would ask you just for a clarifying part. Do you understand how an argument functions? How there's an affirmative?
So does anyone want to like maybe entertain my question possibly?
Yeah,
It was
I think a fair. I think
because you were asking me if this is what my argument is.
Oh my
and
god!
Instantly you interrupt me, and then Gatebreaker uses it as an opportunity, start poisoning the well, and say, "Oh, we should stop talking about Flat Earth."
Hey, poison your own well, bud. You're doing it right now. Anyways,
So I asked
can I
what your
answer? Can
argument
I answer
was.
Demon Stride?
Interrupted me. I was in the middle of
All right, go
speaking,
ahead.
and both of you interrupted me. I was asking a clarifying question because you asked me what my argument was.
Yeah, I'm asking if the argument for curved plane flight paths is there to help further the globe lie, because that sounds like what the argument has been, and I'm just wondering if that's what everyone's actually arguing for.
Oh, you're asking everybody, not me? All right, then I don't need to answer.
I don't think I need to ask you anything since you're never going to give me an answer.
So as I was
No, I
gonna
could answer if I could ask a clarifying question about what you mean by argument.
If you're going to ask me if I know how fucking conversations work again, I'm going to tune you out again.
Okay, if you're going to keep interrupting when someone's in the middle of speaking, we moderate for that so people can have a coherent conversation. But anyways, you said, is the argument this? So I wanted to ask you if you think an argument is two different entities or beings making affirmative claims, or do you think it's someone taking the affirmative position and someone taking the negative position, negating that affirmative position?
I'm just trying to understand. So the Globers here, we're all kind of arguing from one position and making logical claims about the nature of our reality. And I'm getting interjection from the opposite side, and they're not really holding down any clarifying point for their actual argument, which is why I asked, is the argument this? Because that sounds like what the argument has been this whole time. And if you can't answer yes or no, don't talk, because that question is obviously not for you.
It's a loaded question. So anyway, if you're going to go on and on after asking the loaded question again and again, like, it's a loaded question. If I say, is your argument that you're stupid, and then you don't refuse to answer, and then I'm just like, oh, look, you refuse to answer my question, that your argument is that you're stupid. Like, that's not a way to engage. But like,
well,
for example,
I would answer you, no, my argument is not that I'm stupid.
If I made an argument that started with the claim, I ate a burrito, and Geo decides...
I'm putting my headphones off.
Dude, kick rocks. You are such a child. As Skeptic, that's not an invite. That's not an invite for someone else to interrupt. I'm in the middle of speaking. I didn't interrupt Demon Stride.
Yeah,
so
go speak.
if I made an argument that started with the premise, I ate a burrito.
This is not an argument, though.
Oh, Skeptic guy can jump in. Go ahead, please. Carry on.
I kind of forgot what Demon Stride's question was. I know Gally was trying to respond in that way, but obviously Demon Stride didn't really receive that.
Are you about the actual topic itself? Let's talk about latitudes.
Let's just let Gatebreaker go. Maybe.
That's the question about, is the argument this? So I just wanted to know if he was asking me if my argument was an affirmation or a negation. Basically what I was asking. So I was trying to draw the distinction of that. If I made the point or the claim that started with the premise, I ate a burrito today, in order for someone to refute that, they would refute, you did not eat a burrito today. They would not bring up another affirmative statement that they ate a burrito today, therefore I'm wrong. So if I told Geo, I ate a burrito today, and Geo goes, no, I ate a burrito today, that makes no sense. But if I said, I ate a burrito today, and Geo took the refutation, you did not eat a burrito today, that makes sense. That's how arguments work.
I would like to say I ate a burrito today, and I'd like to say probably other people ate a burrito today, because tomorrow's Cinco de Mayo, okay? Already. Okay.
I just ate 2 burritos, literally.
But you guys get the point
ago.
of like affirmation and negation, right? Like there is a reason why discussions happen like that, where it's not just people claiming stuff dogmatically and seeing like who can bolster up their claim more than the other. Otherwise, it's just, I ate a burrito today, mine was tastier. Like that makes no sense. No one should discuss anything like that.
I noticed during the presentation that it was like a vibe in the room where the way Alan presented his work in team, which is great. It wasn't just FE. His tool, everything the FE think could do and demonstrate, there's the globe equivalent for it. It's a great tool for the globe, and the way he's presenting it, he's not, okay, look, flat, this flat Earth is very open from looking at things from a high level. Okay, this concept, these angles, this is how it works in here, this is how it works in here. And the room felt like it felt good because we didn't waste time just arguing over bullshit. we need to
Everyone
continue
can see
that.
what you're doing.
We need to continue that. So what is this? This is the Q&A post presentation live stream.
No, we're
so
just having a
What are you
discussion.
trying to do? What are you trying to do here?
What he's
trying
trying to do
get
is
on something really
obfuscate
constructive
the
where we could all,
conversation.
really
He
benefit
wants
from the
less
30
flat
minutes we
earth
have of
over
being here.
He's trying to
conversation.
off the
Yeah.
skateboard around. Is that what you're saying?
Okay, let me ask Snacks and Galley this, and yeah, I am challenging you. What's your opinion between, we saw lots of data points and lots of visuals between the Gleason and the dual pole. Alan gave his opinion on it, and others gave their opinions. What's you guys' opinion between these two? Like, let's what is it?
Very close with Alan. My opinion is the same as Alan's. A projection's not reality. Alan's one of my best friends.
That doesn't sound like a cult.
No, we're not doing that. Okay.
Not. It's my friend.
So this
I just
model gives
agree
us
with
this
his
this
position.
God view, which supposedly only God can have. But like ultimately, we all want to even hypothetically, if Earth is a level stationary plane, getting what's the layout is. It's kind of a big deal. And this isn't a burden on anyone. This is like, we really want to know, even if it had to be, even if it's not flat, just based on our measurements, our data, everything, which one would it more probably be?
Not concave. Exactly. Yep.
I can tell you my position, but I
It
guarantee
wasn't
that
concave.
we wouldn't be able to get
All right,
through
it
the
is what
whole
it
thing
is.
without egregious
Isn't concave?
interruptions.
Is that what you want to know, Gatebreaker?
Gatebreaker wants to sing Kumbaya. I think we know that, and it's fine.
I think he wants to obfuscate like the flat Earth, globe Earth debate or the non-exclusivity or exclusivity claims because he wants everybody to move towards, concave or dual pole model or
Are you
whatever.
saying he's trying to sell that?
I don't think he's selling the concave. I think he's trying to.
Really?
He's trying to find concave. He's trying to find common ground. I don't know why I said that. He's trying to find common ground with flat earthers so that they can be on a level playing field with globe. Am I right, Gatebreaker?
He's got a whole website dedicated to selling the concave Earth model.
Is he still doing that? Because I thought he was. I thought he got rid of that.
I explained what I
He was
thought
arguing
going
for
on, it would
concave
be
Earth for like
pure
2
ad hominem.
hours today.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I thought he was off of concave.
Yeah, so he's piggybacking off.
Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, Galley, lies just flow through.
Okay, now you're getting server muted because you do that all the time. You wait for me to start speaking and you interrupt me. Please do not do that. I'll unmute right after I'm done speaking. So to piggyback off of flat earthers' non-exclusivity claims and then say, well, flat earthers are lacking this and the globe has this, so now I can use the flat earths making claims, the flat earth claims, that the globe is not exclusive, piggyback off that, but also say what the globe does well and the flat earth doesn't do, which is make predictions, use models, etc. I can both attack those two things and bolster up a dual pole or a concave model. Gatebreaker, please stop interrupting. I'm only muting you so I can finish what I was saying.
Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, I don't need to paintbrush your reality or tell you how to think. Everyone here is intelligent and smart. You've got your own discernment. Those have been here for... you know what's going on. I don't need to reclaim it. Let's get back to the topic. Thank you, Galley, for your opinion, and that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Can I ask you though, just for clarification, for my own entertainment, Gatebreaker, are you trying to find common ground for the flat Earth so that they have something similar to the globe, or is it something different than that?
Those are really specifics. I'm not trying to do anything in particular. I think I'm trying to use my own experience, having gone through flat Earth, focusing on the models, focusing on if in this setup this would work this way, in this setup this would work this way. What are the consequences of these setups? What are the strengths and benefits? This isn't even is the world flat or not. This is even at a hypothetical level. If it had to be, which would be the strongest model?
Okay. And I think on the same token though, I think in the back of your mind, are you still like the globe has these things figured out, or are you still kind of like mulling that over sort of thing?
No, I in my mind, the globe is definitely the stronger model overall, especially in terms of space. But it's like a spoiler alert for the community. But there's some things that concave Earth is not necessarily does better than the globe, but it's a spoiler alert for some people in here. So, but no,
okay. No problem.
I certainly wouldn't die on any of these hills. I wouldn't die on any of these hills if someone was to say, would you die on the Globe Hill. No, I wouldn't die on any of these hills. I'm a truth seeker. I'm trying to seek the truth.
But would you die in the inverse of a hill?
In my own way, as honest as I can, the way I do it. And
I got you.
Right
Yeah,
now, I really
helped clear
think
it
a
up.
convex
Would you die in a
globe is
concave
is the strongest model for the shape of the world. But it goes from there. So, and that's what I'm working on. But yeah, thank you very much.
I'm with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any direction y'all want to take it? The one critique I was going to say earlier, I'll go ahead and say it. You guys were talking about the Great Circle. I would say it could be something as simple as this, Gio. And I don't know if this crossed your mind, but like, say, I don't know, you're flying from Japan to LA or Australia to LA, whatever would like cross over the Hawaiian Islands, and the Hawaiian Islands is your control, like in this like particular route, which does take place, by the way. And they might even stop over in the Hawaiian Islands, but it would be very simple to be like this particular landmark. I was flying a great route or a Great Circle route to and from our final destination. Makes perfect sense on a globe, and it doesn't make like any landmark, right? Like and you can take anything over land, of course. But I'm just picking the ocean because it would be very random, I think, to sort of like kind of shimmy that into like one or the other models, right? Like I was thinking that could be a very simple way of deciding whether or not we are flying on a flat Earth or a globe, just based on a landmark, I guess.
Also, we are using the coordinate system, latitude, longitude. I know I keep repeating that, but that's the main coordinate system that we use, right?
Of course. But like I think what Gio and Gally might have been saying similarly was that we aren't sure if we're I don't want to straw man it, but it seemed to be something different than sort of that approach that I was kind of talking about just now. It was more like we don't know exactly where we are, sort of thing, and we can just be misled or something to that degree. I could be wrong on that, but
I'll be honest, I get all fucking mixed up. Just want to keep things simple in my mind. So 2 points on a coordinate system on a sphere. That's what we use. Let's say which we all have a debate that we can look it up. Like we can find out. What's a good example? New York or in London or something like that?
Sure.
We can use.
Or we could go over land. We could go New York to LA. That's a flight that takes place, and you can literally see cities beneath you as you're flying, right?
We could do that. We could do that. I have a calculator opened up right now.
I mean, the more landmarks, the better, in my opinion, to sort of map, kind of map our route or sort of thing.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Yeah. And we can get those 4 inputs. We can get the latitude of New York, the longitude of New York, the latitude and longitude of Los Angeles. We can generalize an equation and actually calculate what the actual short distance is on that circle, on that great circle. It's not hard. So yeah. We can do that right now, even if you guys want to.
Yeah, but calculating distance with a spherical assumption is how we got into this whole mess in the first place. How they got us into this mess, basically.
No. We don't have to go that far into giving you what the formulas are. I have them. I have it. We can derive it. Any person who taking calculus, we can derive those. Well, maybe not. I don't know about that actually, but we can do it. Like
calculating.
Yeah, and all we need is 2 latitudes, 2 longitudes. You get your distance. We can use the average speed of the plane and see if it matches, which I'm sure it does. So
it does seem like a simple test. Like Gio, like think about this.
It is a simple test.
If we could put a camera sort of on the window, right, and we could sort of map out cities as they were, like as we're flying a great circle, just as a passenger, and we could say, look, this is like what we're seeing.
Oh, that's even better.
You know what I'm saying? Like we could map out an entire flight from LA to New York and be like, this seems to be what they're flying. It doesn't seem that they have the motivation to do anything other than what's the most cost effective, going back to mine and Gally's sort of sidebar there, but it would make sense that they'd fly that, and then we could sort of map it out. We could say, hey, these are the pastures that are located here. Or once we get up in the clouds, obviously it might be a little difficult, but we could look at other features that that may or may not be visible. that might be a challenge, but because they're going up
pretty much all
40,000
of these
feet.
like
So.
these like southern ocean or these like long ocean flights, aren't those usually always like either autopilot or they're completely dependent on GPS in a lot of cases?
Well, I think most flights in general, modern, are going to be autopilot. So they're going to be making those micro corrections that they might for like nose down, nose up sort of thing. To they're just trimming it to the specific pressure, the air pressure. So whatever that air pressure that they have it trimmed to, they're going to remain at that altitude, regardless of if it's not going to tell if it's flat or globe. I think, right? Like there's going to be an argument on both sides, and they're going to, one side's going to look at it and be like, they're just telling you that because that's what they're telling you, and like. I don't think we're going to get anywhere on that argument, but I think we could definitely point out like, land structures and that sort of thing. Even on a smaller flight, it doesn't have to be a 2,500 mile flight. It could be something that they don't get up to 40,000 feet. Sometimes, like, I do a puddle jumper and it gets up to like 29,000 feet, and we can still see
even better.
all the cities.
Tails down, nose up. That's
all
the
right.
way
Quick
we like to
question.
fly.
Quick question.
Yeah.
If it was linked to what I was saying before, but if you're linked to that, if you're on a globe, do you think you can detect the 8 inches per mile squared that the airplane is tilting as you fly around the sphere? Is there any way to detect that?
On an airplane?
Do you think there's any way to detect that? Yeah. Is that detectable? The 8 inches per mile squared, like it's 1 degree every 69 miles kind of thing that the plane would be tilting.
It's as detectable as boats when they do it.
Well, if you think about it,
well, I have a second part.
It's as detectable as when boats do it.
I'll tell you the reason. I'll tell you the reason I don't think it is detectable is because we're just literally maintaining altitude. We're maintaining air pressure, and so we're going to simply glide into an air pressure without changing anything else. Like there's a very minimal acceleration change, right? Very minimal.
It's because you trim and you set to an altitude the same way a boat is trimmed literally to float on the water. You could put a hole in it and you could go at a lower altitude, but just like a boat, it stays at that altitude because the medium it's in. The same thing happens for a plane when you set its trim.
All right, so the 8 inches, the 8 inches per mile. Even if we go with all that, the 8 inches per mile amount that the airplane is technically tilting. I realize that like the vector of down on the globe would move with you, so you do have that kind of concept going with it. Nonetheless, you are actually changing orientation though, and a gyroscope should be able to pick that up, which we've talked about doing a gyroscope like without pendulous vanes, or have one with pendulous vanes, one without, to be able to actually detect that, because that's what the globe claims, etc. But
to draw a distinction,
the second part of it was just going to be back to the turning left or right. But if you can't detect it that you're tilting vertically and vertically up or down, could you then detect that you're going left or right 8 inches per mile squared? And if you can't detect the vertical one, why would you be able to detect the horizontal? That was going to be the whole string.
I do want to draw one quick distinction.
If you took a gyroscope and you went around the great circle, you would see the gyroscope process. So that could be doable.
The only quick distinction I was going to make between what Demon Stride said to your previous comment was that we are actually achieving that distance a lot quicker on an airplane than we are even on a speedboat, right? Let's just say it's an 80 mile an hour speedboat and we're just literally hitting nothing but flat water. Like you're going to be on a 500 mile an hour jet. So that's a valid point to put forth, Gio, like from that perspective, you're going to be achieving that distance quicker. But again, I think it follows the same principle, is that we are just simply following an altitude and we're going to notice it very, 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 very minutely. Like there's going to be such a small change over the course of it. I can't quantify it, but it's going to be imperceivable. I mean, you can get up and go to the bathroom when you're at 40,000 feet, right? So like whether or not it's on a globe or a flat, you're just not feeling anything at that altitude because it's so small. The adjustments are so small.
Also, commercial airliners always fly with a 3-degree pitch up.
Yeah, and they sort of kind of
at 3 degrees, it would still be changing 1 degree every 69 miles.
No.
Well, I think the distinction that Robert's making is that it's never nose down. We're always kind of falling through the air, right? We're always pushing up by creating lift by the engines, but we're never in the ailerons. We're never actually nosing down. We're just sort of falling through. Even for landing, your nose is always pitched up. You're just falling through the air, until you level it out to put the nose down. Like it's as simple as that.
Yeah, but if you go 69 miles per degree and you go 360 degrees of 69 mile increments is your circumference of the presumed sphere Earth, 24,900 miles, etc. So that's why the 69 miles, like no matter what on a globe, just like if you took a ball in front of you, like one of those like, desktop globes, and you took a little toy airplane, you started flying it around, you would have to actually arc your little fingers with your airplane, little toy airplane. You'd have to actually like, traverse the airplane. If you were going to keep it at the same like, altitude as it were above the globe, you have to actually arc it around. Well, that arcing is the 1 degree per 69 miles. If you get the circumference of what the claimed globe is. So, I mean, you would be changing orientation. I realize in that model, it's in relation to the center of the sphere, and then the vector of down moves with you, and the whole level is curved. I get all that concept of it, but nonetheless, the question was, is that detectable? And then
we're talking about 7 minutes,
the left to right curvature versus vertical.
We're talking about adjusting 1 degree every seven and a quarter minutes. If we're flying 500 miles an hour for 69 miles, right?
That sounds about right. Yeah, when I've broken it down, yeah, it's like every few minutes.
Yeah, every 7 and a quarter. I mean, are we going to detect? I mean, if we're breaking it down to like every minute, we're talking about less than like, I don't know, less than a tenth of like definitely around a 0.15 or so of a degree every minute. Are we going to feel that? You know what I mean? Like it's a very, very small amount. I don't know. Maybe someone else can speak on it.
0.15 per minute. Is that what you said?
0.15 degree maybe per minute is what I said. If we're going 500 miles an hour, like we're going to be achieving we're going to be achieving 1 degree every 7 and a quarter minutes, I think.
Yeah. And if you're going a little faster, it'd be a little quicker. Yeah. So is that detectable?
Right. That's the question, I guess.
I mean, shouldn't every gyroscope ever like be picking it up in every airplane if you really were doing that? Because I mean, airplanes can pick up, like those Honeywells, like very sensitive,
Certainly the globe would say it does, right?
Pitch and yaw, roll.
Yeah, certainly the globe would say that it does. But again, I think that's the difference of like they're telling us what they want you to want you to believe, or they're compartmentalized or whatever. Like, are we really getting anywhere? But like at the end of the day, are we able to perceive that? I guess it's more of a general question. But yeah, I mean, I think the equipment's reliable. I think that you would think the equipment's reliable. I don't know that you would trust the equipment being reliable over it being built in or something to that effect. Maybe some master conspiracy, like with all due respect to like the flat Earth. I think that's like going to be the major claim, is that they might be told.
Well, I mean,
those
Honeywells are like very locked down. Like you're not even allowed to open them up and like look through them. You're like, it's like, anyways, it's pretty like it is locked down in a certain way. But yeah, there could be some way in which those are programmed. But I mean, they pick up the Sagnac effect, which is something they have to establish on the ground, and then once they calibrate for that, they're able to just sense very, very fine, minute detections in your pitch and yaw and roll, your XYZ. And yeah, I mean, they're definitely accurate. But
okay, I'm glad to hear you feel that way, because that was going to be my next question. Is like, do you actually think that these are telling you what they are, or do you think that it's some
pitch and yaw? Yeah,
bigger...
I mean, interferometry. Okay. Yeah, I mean, of course, interferometry is a real thing, and it can be very accurate. But how is it? Yeah, I mean, we were talking about whether it's picking up this like 1 degree every couple minutes, tilt.
For that to be pre-programmed in, they would have to know where it is. And just the other night, I was looking through their entire manual that has all of the serial protocols and all the data packets. The way the communication with it works, there's no way to tell it where it is. It just outputs a rate of change.
Yeah. So are they outputting the 1 degree every couple of minutes tilt in an airplane as you're flying around the ball?
It doesn't have to.
Because it's not tilting?
It automatically, based on the altimeter and the pressure levels, it follows the curve along. It doesn't naturally follows along.
I think the steel. Yeah, I think the Steelman maybe. What Gio might be asking is, in the raw data, maybe from a gyroscope, would you be detecting it? I guess, like on a more basal level. Is that what you're asking, Gio?
Yeah, if you're in a big airplane, you're flying across the alleged globe, you have one of these really advanced laser, 3-ring laser, interferometry gyroscopes and so on that are very sensitive, that can pick all. I mean, they have to be very, very accurate for like when you're landing, like what angle you're at and all those factors. So if they're that sensitive, and if it's 1 degree every like 5-6 minutes, you were saying 7, if you're going 500 miles an hour, if you're going a little faster, it'd be like 5 or 6 minutes. So every 5 or 6 minutes, you're tilting 1 degree. Now you might think 1 degree is not very much, but if you were to fly all the way from the equator to the North Pole, there'd be 90 degrees. So, I mean, there's 90 times that you're tilting. Granted, that is a long flight.
No, you're constantly tilting. You're not getting to a certain point and then tilting a little bit. You're in a constant tilt when you're going around the globe. You understand that, right?
I put their manual in the text chat just now.
It's an oblate spheroid, but yeah, and then if you stay at the same altitude plus the oblateness, it'd be pretty close to that, yeah, in that model.
Yeah, there'd be no point where a plane is adjusting to go down by 1 degree. That's not how that would even work on the globe.
Yeah, but that would mean that if you took off at the equator and then you flew all the way on the globe, you flew all the way to the North Pole. You know, I know reference frames and all this, but if you just looked at it from God mode, from outside, and you saw the dude, that dude would be actually going like a whole 90-degree tilt within that 6,000-mile trip.
Absolutely.
So you're right. It would happen very slowly, but it would happen, and you would think these gyroscopes could be able to pick that up, right?
They do. Yes, that's the point. So you could spin up a flywheel and put it on a gimbal and do that same flight. And you're going to see at the beginning of the flight, you can have it completely horizontal, whatever. And by the time you get to the North Pole, it will be flipped 90 degrees. This is a thing you can do. It has been done.
Okay, well, my original question was, is it detectable? And Icy Spin was saying maybe no. So is your take on it, Demon Stride, that it is detectable?
So it's detectable by very precise instruments, but you're not going to feel it. So what you're asking is, can I detect the tilt as I'm going around it? No, I can't, but a very precise gyroscope can.
Okay, and what evidence have you seen that it will stay rigid and then it'll change in precession over like long distance in an airplane? You've seen that, or you've done that?
Yeah, I haven't done it myself. No, I hate fucking airplanes, but I could probably look around for the video.
There's that one in Skylab. Remember back like NASA in like the 80s or whatever. There's one in Skylab. They
I know that there is an article out there somewhere. I remember this being brought up, and I haven't looked into it, but about what the is it the vestibular system, what it actually can detect. There are scientific papers on that thing, on like what it is that our system can detect. I can't remember exactly what it is, but I know they're out there. That might be a good paper to dive into.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really referring to like picking it up with your feels, you know, even though that would be cool if you could, like as a human, or like with your own feeling or your own ability. I was more talking about, is it detectable, you know?
Oh, you mean with instruments? Yeah, I think I think so. I mean, if you're talking about like being able to, and think about the equipment, we can see.
Do you think right now that every gyroscope is? Do you think right now every gyroscope is picking up and reading the 1 degree per 69-mile vertical tilt of an airplane as it flies all around the Earth? Do you think that's happening, or they're recording all that and actually calculating?
Yes.
Because I mean, because they have to have that.
Inside the airplane, yeah, the 3D gyro compasses do that.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I mean,
100%.
that would be arguably at least a strong argument. I have never seen. I mean, we could get into what data is out there and what's available, because we've talked about actually having to do this test, like, you know, get our own airplane, whether it's rented or purchased, whatever it may be, and then get like, you know, 10, 15 different gyroscopes, all different types, ideally. Some with pendulous vanes, some without, mechanical, interferometers, and have, you know, ring laser gyros, a bunch of different ones, and then see, and if we did that and published that data, I think that would be actually pretty groundbreaking, like, you know, whoever does that, because right now, I know what you guys are saying, there are a few references, but it's not very strong evidence in my view of some of these different gyros and how if they actually do this, that we're talking about, this kind of precession.
Yeah. I'm thinking of two pilots off the top of my head. Number one is Wolfie 6020. I think he would probably be the greatest resource of having real world data, because he's published a lot on YouTube, not recently, but in terms of gyroscopes and measurements and stuff. I think he's done real world data as well. I know he's done measurements from the cockpit of the airplane. Also, there's another guy, Robert something or another. He's been on MC Tune several times, and he's actually debated other a flat Earth pilot by the name of Quincy. I can't remember his last name, but he does very small range flights. But he is another good resource for someone that might be able to dive more into that aspect of it, and maybe providing data and showing why this data shows what it does. I think you're just asking for the raw data of like they have 3 gyroscopes, as far as I understand, on all modern aircraft. In case one of them goes down, they need the other 2 to be able to find themselves in space, so to speak. But yeah, I feel like that would be fairly trivial information to get, as long as there's not red tape involved with why ever the airlines themselves might be wanting to keep that data for insurance or whatever. But I don't think that that's something that would be super complicated. But yeah, I'll definitely reach out to one of those two guys, if not both.
So
see
if you
there's
saw that
anything they might be able to help.
would you change your position on the shape of the Earth and say it's most likely a globe if we could show the precession of a gyroscope?
It'd be hard to argue with, right, Gio? I think that's what you're saying, right?
No. So with Gio's question, real quick, Anyway, with Gio's question, it got me thinking when I came across this that geometrically this idea holds water, right? Like, it all depends on how high the altitude is, right? How fast the plane is moving, and then you have some actual things to look at. And so I went right to the Concorde, 1,535 miles an hour, right? That's flying at 55,000 feet. What are the geometric implications? How many course corrections would we have to have, and how often would we have to have them, right? Like, is this plane pointing its nose down, or is it maintaining altitude? How long can it maintain altitude for? Simple question.
It just follows it naturally. It's what planes do.
There's also these jets, like the ones that they use, like the really high-level fighter jets, and they'll sometimes fly them very low to the water, and they don't have to adjust for the curve. And the speed at which some of those are doing, they do some of these are like trick maneuvers, you know, where they're very, very close to the ground and they're going like 800 miles an hour. That's another interesting one. They would deviate off the sphere, but they stay perfectly level when they do these really fast flights right down by the water.
And by the way, Bob Nodell already did this test with the gyroscope, but they deny it. So.
Well, it's interesting. We've got two different positions here as far as globers go. There's what I'm saying, it just does happens. You know, geometrically, it just sticks to its position. The other one's going, no, we account for it. And the airplane does special things, and we can measure it with a gyroscope. So you guys might want to figure that out.
Which globe side is disagreeing?
What Bob picked up was the Sagnac effect, and he already knew that was what he would pick up. Everybody knew about the Sagnac effect. That wasn't anything new or different at all. The Sagnac effect definitely occurs. It's related to the sidereal motion, but the globe interprets that we're on a sphere, and that's why those stars are moving versus the actual sidereal motion being related to the cause of it directly in terms of a stationary. So yeah, the Sagnac effect is known about, and that's a whole separate topic. But the one about this one, there's just two physical things. One of them is that you're on an actual sphere, and you're, you know, like I said, if you took a toy airplane on a globe, you have to actually arc your fingers around the ball in order to make it go around the ball. But if you did it over your flat table, you wouldn't have to do that at all. The plane would be staying level the whole time.
How big is the plane?
There's a discrepancy in the two models, and the whole question of whether pilots have to purposely force their nose down or not, and the whole claims of gravity and all that. Either way, we're talking here about the actual tilting in orientation, and that's the question of that. I have not seen gyroscopes substantiate that. And I was saying, if it were a globe, you know, of course that, you know, if the evidence showed that it's not tilting, then obviously that's not strong for a globe. If it showed that it was, then it doesn't mean that it is a globe, but it means that would be one thing that's required for it to be one. And I've yet to see validation of that.
Your analogy of having to tilt a plane around a ball isn't like accurate because it's a scale issue. If you had a ball,
that's what I was trying to say.
The size of the moon, you wouldn't ever tilt your fingers around it, and you wouldn't perceive yourself tilting your fingers around it. Like, if you got a golf ball versus a beach ball, which one do you think you're going to feel more tilt as you fly your toy plane around? Probably the golf ball, right?
Well,
so if you get a bigger ball, you wouldn't feel it.
Like Icy Spin said earlier, at 500 miles an hour, it's about 1 degree every 7 minutes. Because I remember when I did it, I was calculating it for like 600-700 miles an hour, and it was like every 5 or 6 minutes. So let's just say every 5 to 7 minutes, if you're going pretty fast like that, 500 miles an hour and up, every 5 to 7 minutes, you're tilting 1 degree. So
find an analogy that uses that scale, because saying like using a ball that you can hold in your hand and a toy plane, both of those aren't to scale. It's not a good analogy.
Well, just think about a roller coaster. Even like if you went down 1 degree for 5 minutes, like are you really going to notice it? Like if you're just going straight on a roller coaster, I would be hard pressed to think that the acceleration that you're experiencing going forward would not far and away take away any sensation you feel on the vertical vector.
It's the same thing like when someone says, "Oh, we're spinning at 1,000 miles at the equator." Well, if you drove in a circle in the car and it took you a whole day to take a circle, are you going to feel it?
Yeah, but I don't really think originally we were not really talking about whether you feel stuff. We were actually talking about whether it's happening and whether it's detectable.
Okay, because when you went to your tactile version of you holding a toy on a ball, that is you trying to make the argument that you can feel this. So try and make that argument where you're using tools that can detect that versus your fingers on a toy.
Yeah, I mean, our
'Cause if we're
tools
not-
right now are all the gyroscopes and all the airplanes around the world. Are they all measuring the change in orientation as they fly around the curvature of a sphere? Is that happening, or do they not calculate for that and they just treat the planes as flying level?
No, it's nothing to do with calculating. The plane has a pressurized altimeter. It flies at a 3-degree nose up because it can't fly at 0 because it would go down. And the plane just naturally follows over with gravity acting as a tether, and it follows a normal level of the Earth. It just follows like a level, and it just curves
That's why I
around
made
the
the
whole
boat
Earth.
analogy. That's why I made the boat analogy, because a boat does the same thing. It's trimmed to stay on top of the water the same way a plane trims to stay in its altitude that it's at. You can change the trim. You can raise altitude, lower it, but once you set the trim, it's going to lock into that altitude.
All right, I got one for you. What about for submarines? Are submarines curving around underwater, over the curve of the Earth? Submarines.
Those same Honeywells are used in submarines. Yeah.
So, Gold Knight, do you think all these gyroscopes are picking this up? Like when a submarine makes a long trip, for example, or an airplane? Because I mean, there's a lot of arguments here, like whether gravity could do that, measuring this. But do you think they're all measuring the change of orientation?
I do.
I'd say
And I
even
think
more
if
so
you
in a
had
submarine. Yeah.
Rakia mentioned it the other day that you could even have one in a car and drive over the Pontchartrain Bridge, and you ought to be able to detect it there with those Honeywells. You'd have to obviously discount or subtract out like the ramping up to the bridge elevation and then ramping down on the other end. But I think there's an easy way to filter that out.
Well, I mean, we all agree that's a very big difference. Like flying an airplane over a planar surface where you're staying at 30,000 feet, let's say, and you're not doing that orientation change. And I realize there's the claim of gravity pulling to the center of a sphere, whereas gravity on a plane would just be more of the downward vector kind of thing, just down instead of towards the center of a sphere. But don't you think, Bull Knight, if somebody was trying to show others it was a globe, like, I mean, are you aware of like thorough data that shows that you have access to that seems able to be somewhat verified, that the gyroscopes and that airplanes are actually making this 1 degree every 69 mile orientation change?
Based on the Wolfie video I saw years ago, he went through the process where like they're calibrated to like subtract that out as it travels horizontally, so that it only shows the tilt and roll and yaw.
So wait, he's saying it's pulled out, it's calculated, it's pulled out behind the scenes?
That's considered noise from what it's actually there to display, which is the airplane's orientation over the ground at any given moment.
Wait, are you telling me
it's like digital pendulous vanes, honestly.
That it's programmed to remove the oblate spheroid exact radius?
Not the gyroscopes; those just output rate of change. But the IMU, the computer they're connected to as input for.
Huh. Why would they remove it? It seems like you would want to know all that. Like you'd want to know exactly your position. If you were on a globe, you would want to know your orientation tilt to make sure you're
not relative to where you took off. Like you want to know your orientation now, not your orientation relative to the runway that you took off from.
Horizon. That shows you your angle of attack. Even if you're in a dense fog and a cloud, you could see that you're flying level.
But like, think about it, you're going down literally a straight road, and after 7 minutes, you've gone down a degree, and you're going.
Yeah, that's what I. You know what I mean? Think was like the approachable data set we can attain.
That's a good analogy, Icy Spin. It's a very good analogy.
Well, I mean, it's been contested for years, like whether this happens or not. So I think even like David Weiss was talking about wanting to do a test like this because it's been pretty like talked about in a lot of different different channels and stuff. Well, I don't think he came up with the idea. I mean, he's always been around like back in the day, those Globebusters guys, and they used to like come up with experiments and stuff. So I don't think he came up with it, but I've heard him say it before. Yeah.
Do you listen to him and take what he says seriously?
Those are two different questions. I don't follow or listen to him much at all. No, I hear little clips here and there. Particularly though, I have heard him mention over the years. I mean, he's been on Globebusters, he's been on Jeranism at times. But yeah, I don't follow his channel or listen to him very frequently. But I have heard him say the idea of getting an airplane and then having several gyroscopes and seeing if that could actually be picked up, this effect. So I mean, I'm just saying a lot of people are aware of it, and unless somebody has like evidence they feel is really strong, I've yet to see like strong evidence that it actually is occurring, that the airplane is actually making that change in orientation.
I mean, you could charter a Gulfstream 500 and go do what you want to do. I mean, I'm not sure why it's so difficult.
Because when you actually know the truth, it might not match what you want to believe. So you're gonna hide and protect those feelings from actually, coming out. That's what I see.
I'll hook you up with my jet broker, and you could go charter a Gulfstream and fly where and fly and do what you want to do. I mean, you have to spend the money. Probably cost you about 40 grand, but you could do it.
Yeah,
Cost you a trip to CFE, right?
You could just know that it's not a ball.
Hey, Sally, why?
That's
Well,
why
how do you
driving on
know,
the road's
though?
a lot cheaper. You'd get the same data.
Why not bolster up IC Spin's economic airplane argument? I had some like things you could add to it to make it stronger, like compositional evidence.
Well, what's weak about it? But I
Well, I
appreciate
told you
that.
my
But
refutation for it already, right? Like my reputation
yeah,
would still stand even if you had more compositional evidence. But like if
what
you're debating someone who takes the compositional evidence as strength, you could add in more compositional evidence.
can I I'd
personally
like to
don't, but-
remind you too that we briefly talked about like taking a trip, say from New York to LA, and being able to point out landmarks out the window as long as we don't go, above the cloud. What do you call it? The cloud sheet or whatever they call it. To some degree, I think you could map out a pretty good idea of like how you're actually flying relative to the Earth. That
Yeah,
aside, though, what
even better, that's another compositional point.
Yeah, that
where you
aside,
could
what's your
stack each
compositional
method.
point? Yeah.
You could stack each method used to determine where the plane is, how high it is up. You could go like classic and use like dead reckoning, star navigation. You could bring a magnetic compass on with you. You could look at ground radar. I wrote down air traffic control timestamps. So like that will tell you like exact clock readings telling you the duration of the flight. You get fuel consumption and pilot logs. And you could add all of those in as far as composition. It's just more links to that chain. Like here's more compositional evidence that this is the case. It strengthens up the economic plane argument.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think the fuel consumption could be very strong if you can get the average fuel consumption of a particular type of airplane. And even on short flights, like there's going to be deviation based on, how high they go, et cetera. But I think that would be really strong evidence if we could draw conclusions based on where they're flying and how much fuel consumption they burn flying this route versus a similar route versus stuff like that. Yeah.
That was one of the ones I was worried about as far as like, some people get in the weeds with we'll never know how much fuel consumption it actually uses to fly the plane because they constantly dump fuel, especially right before the landing, that type of thing. And then there's also the whole idea of, planes don't even have that much fuel in them. And there's a whole conspiracy around that. So that might be one of the more difficult things to prove, especially in like conspiracy theory communities. But
yeah,
you know how like planes dump fuel right before the end?
That could actually be part of the jet
minimal.
fuel hoax. Wait, the not flying the shortest routes could actually be part of the jet fuel hoax. It's not that they don't use necessarily any fuel, but I'm just saying there could still be something shady going on with the fueling.
But what if we take like an airline like a Delta or an American or what have you, United, and we say what are their guidelines for fueling? Like, what did they say they fuel to? And what did they actually fuel to based on the flight logs to achieve a 1,200 mile journey, to achieve a 1,500 mile journey? Whether or not they dump it is, I would say, secondary. But if we can look at what are they actually fueling to, and do we trust that? That might be somewhere to start because that gives us certainly they have guidelines based on the amount of miles they're going to fly, regardless of if they're flying to Kansas City or if they're flying to Houston, Texas, I would imagine. But
yeah, so you get like the point why I brought up the fuel then, right? Because your point was something to the effect of, look, they're spending millions of dollars to do X thing. In this case, they're probably spending millions of dollars to not waste money on fuel. And granted, they'll probably excessively fuel a little bit just in case, God forbid, they need to fly around a bit before they can land.
Right. Yeah.
So they probably account for that. So like the fuel part was more of an extension. Well, all these are extensions of the economic plane argument.
And it's probably also to do with where their nearest alternate airport is too, I think is part of that equation. Like how many miles off the route is their nearest alternate airport, I think is factored into the amount of fuel that they add.
They don't dump fuel unless they're having an emergency. They can't land heavy and they do it for fire strength. They just don't dump fuel every time they land. That's not what they do.
They'll land with minimal fuel. They'll try to land with as little as possible, but I think they give themselves a half hour or an hour of
usually an hour
excess.
depends on the passenger. They all have their own guidelines they go by. But earlier, I wanted to conclude before I go to the bed. I heard both stories that a gyro does process over a 5-hour plane flight, let's say, or from New York, California, the gyro would process, and then I heard that it's taken out where it doesn't process. It only shows the turning left to right. So which is it? So one guy said he was going to post a video.
Yeah, well, all right. So I'll answer your question. So if you have just a regular gyro sitting there, it will process. The ones he's talking about where it's taking the data out, it's because they don't need that data to fly the plane. Even though it's there, it can feel it. They just don't display that data, I think is what he was saying.
So you were the one that said you were going to post a video of a gyro processing.
Oh, I'm driving right now. Yeah, I am, but I'm driving right now. I'll get to my data later.
Yeah, and the other thing is planes aren't held at altitude due to gravity. We've had many pilots on here.
Yes, they are.
Because of the air pressure. No, that's not what the Glovers say.
It's setting the trim, and gravity does also factor that. Otherwise, it would just fly off into space.
Yeah, trim is set because the passenger airlines are designed with a fuselage that is nosed up according to the wings to give them better lift and better aerodynamics.
We were saying.
But the air pressure is what holds them to a certain altitude, is what the Glovers say. Not
the altimeter, they use the altimeter, but without gravity, the whole fucking everything's off, buddy. They need gravity.
The idea is that the air pressure is there's a gradient of air pressure based on your altitude because of gravity. So it's a byproduct. Like gravity is a secondary metric, I guess, but it's based on the air pressure. But yeah, it's held to the Earth based on the globe model as an internal critique because of gravity, right? Like that's what the globe says.
I mean, if they're trimmed forgetting about the altimeter, if they were trimmed for level flight, if the plane starts to go out of trim and it starts climbing, then the plane would start slowing down. You'd have to add power to maintain speed. If the plane started to descend, it would start accelerating, increasing in speed. You'd have to pull back power. It's not like you wouldn't notice, even on board, like you wouldn't notice whether you're ascending or descending. That's just ridiculous. Obviously, you can tell by your body whether you're walking upstairs or going downstairs, right? It takes more effort to walk upstairs, less effort to go downstairs. It's just silly to say the altimeter is the only way that the plane could determine whether it's climbing or not.
Yeah, you can put a glass of water on the dash and know if you're going up or down. But anyway, also the point from New York to California, if you're traveling 1,000 miles, how much drop would that be? So not only you having to way
more than 1,000.
Hold on a second. Let's go back to what you just said. You said you could put a glass. You could put a glass of water and determine if you're going up or down. I've never seen a plane that's landing that's got the nose pointed down as it's landing, right? As it's actually touching down. It's descending, but the nose is up, which means your glass of water would look like you're pointed nose up because you are, but you're descending at the same time.
Well, it depends on the plane. Like you're talking about a large passenger airplane. We nose down to decrease in altitude. We don't. Our altitude isn't like a large passenger plane. The single engines, we nose down and we only nose up right before we hit the runway.
When you're when you're descending on your final approach, when you're at the threshold, you're nose up and you're descending, correct?
No, I'm not. We're nose down. Now, passenger airlines.
You're not nose down at the threshold. You'd bust your nose gear if that was the case.
No, that's what I said. We nose up as soon as right before. Do y'all not listen?
You did say nose down, but you might have misspoke.
No, I said we're nose down when we're descending. Right before we hit the runway, we nose up. My exact words.
Right, and yet you're still flying though. When you're at the threshold, or when you get over the runway, you're still descending, but you're nose up, right?
Right before we hit the runway. But we're a single engine Tiger. Like it's way different than a passenger airline. The aerodynamics are different. Like when I was part of a design team in South Carolina that was designing a pusher airplane, it never nosed up. It was always designed at an attitude of dead straight, right? But when they design the aerodynamics of a passenger airline to make it fuel efficient and make it not tear apart, basically, they usually put a 3 or 4 degree fuselage nose up attitude according to the wings. Like it doesn't mean that everything is 3 or 4 degrees like parallel from the ground or from a plumb bob. It's from the wing the center of the fuselage according to the wings, not anything else. That's
Well,
called
the
the
fuselage.
You know that you could actually fly a plane and change elevation. You go up and down while keeping the nose positive alpha up nose the whole time by just playing with the power, right?
Of course, sure.
So your statement that you could tell whether you're ascending or descending by having a glass of water on your dashboard is not accurate, right?
Well, I can. I mean, if you level out on one of those planes, put a glass of water on there, and then you descend or ascend, you can see it in the glass of water.
But you're not a pilot, Rakia.
No, I'm not.
So,
Okay.
But what if you're descending at a constant rate? Is the glass of water going to be shaking? Like, is it going to be? In other words, if you're descending at a constant
It's
rate,
different than when you were flying at even altitude. After you leveled out, if you put a glass of water, if you start descending, unless you're like keeping your same attitude, right? It's going to change. It's just like a gyro. A glass of water is just like a gyro. It'll show you your left or right and your attitude with your nose up or down.
No, it's not, because a glass of water does not have rigidity in three-dimensional space. A glass of water is just dependent on the forces acting upon it. That's why you could do a loop on an airplane, or you could do a roll on an airplane and have that glass of water be perfectly level sitting on your dashboard without a drop spilling out of it, and it being perfectly level in your cup the whole time while you're doing a loop or the whole time while you're doing a roll.
What?
Yeah, and I guess my point was like that. Would we notice like a constant rate of deceleration or a constant rate of descension? Right. Like, I would argue that it would be very hard for humans to perceive. I think that instruments could perceive it, but to my broader point is that if we're not even constantly descending, if we're maintaining altitude, it would be much harder to detect it. In my opinion,
I don't think you can detect it. The 1 degree.
There's a reason why airplanes use gyros or the electronic equivalent using the Sagnac effect, right? They need something that has rigidity in space. You can't use your turn coordinator for it, right? Because that's just a bubble level essentially, right? Your turn coordinator. But at the same time, that turn coordinator is going to completely lie to you, right? Because you can be in a turn, and if you coordinate that turn, it's going to look like you're just going to feel like the gravity hasn't changed. If you have a cup of water on your dash, it's going to stay flat even if you're in a steep turn. I mean, we've all seen that with a food on a tray table on a plane that's doing a steep coordinated turn, right? You could look out the window and it's like you look like very winged down on one side, but your glass is perfectly level still, right?
Glass is perfectly level during a turn? No, I don't believe that.
You know what a coordinated turn is? You're telling me that you have a friend that's a pilot, you've been in planes, and you don't know what a coordinated turn is?
I know what that is, but you're saying the glass of water wouldn't show that you're turning? I don't believe that. I don't know what you're talking about.
How do you think a turn coordinator works? It makes sure that the gravity vector is always towards the bottom of centered on the bottom of the plane. That's what a turn coordinator does. That's how a turn coordinator works.
You talk about like when it's turning, you're essentially like kind of climbing in the direction that you're turning, so you don't really feel like a left to right yaw type of thing that would be represented in a glass.
Yeah, a coordinated turn is using the right amount of elevator and rudder and roll such that the positive G that you're turning into the turn is directly straight up and down as if the plane was winged level. And the way you know that is the turn coordinator, which is literally a bubble level. That's what a turn coordinator is staying centered, which means that if you have a glass, that's going to also be level because the turn coordinator is literally a level in your instrument display.
Exactly, because like when you're in a plane and you feel it when it's going to a turn, you don't ever feel like you're being pulled left or right. You do feel like you're being pressed into
pulling
your
down. Right. I agree. That's a good point. That's a good point.
If the wing is dipping left or right, or you're turning left and right, then the water is going to show it. The turn coordinator is going to show it. I don't know.
No.
I don't even know. I'll be honest with you. I'll have to
hesitate. Yeah, I hesitate on that one.
Flown twice this week.
He's flown twice this week.
Well, I think it's probably.
I don't even think I have a turn coordinator in the Tiger that my brother owns.
I mean, I've flown a lot. I've never felt jerked left or right. I've flown a lot. I've never paid attention too much, but I do know what it feels like to be fucking getting that shit up to altitude. Like when we need to get going somewhere and we're doing a coordinated turn, you get pulled back into your seat. Like, you guys know the feeling that I'm talking about. I've never really felt jerked around unless I'm flying into Vegas.
A little bit of positive G, but the time where you feel left or right is usually when when they're trying to steer down the center line on takeoff or landing, you might feel yourself being jerked left or right because they're literally steering
they're lining
left
it
or
up.
right. But once you're flying, if the pilot is any good or if the autopilot is flying, every turn is going to be coordinated.
I could get behind that.
Not only that, if you have spatial disorientation, you don't even know which way's up. You could be upside down and think you're flying up right side up.
That's been many the cause of a crash in
you get
history.
disoriented. We've gone up and put, like, call it blackout, and you can't tell. It's a weird phenomenon. You can make a couple of turns and do this and the other. You have no way to tell which way is up and down when you're that far trained.
I think that goes further to my point to some degree, right? Like that you could feel like you're straight up, right side up, and you could actually be upside down, crashing to the sea below you and not even realize it.
It's called
you know what I mean?
Spiral.
Yeah.
So then, Rakia, then you don't agree with flat earthers when they say that I should feel like I'm moving.
I don't think you would feel it over that degree, but I think a mechanical gyro would show precession, and it doesn't. Whoever said it does, and they're going to post a video, I doubt they ever do.
Oh, that was me. I said it does show it.
I know.
Yeah.
I think Bull Knight said it. Maybe it did as well, and he said maybe he's seen some.
I've reached out to some people while we've been chatting, so I'll let it sit and let you guys. I'll reach out to you, Gio, when I have something.
But I mean, the thing is, like, that's what I was saying with that topic. Like, every gyroscope on Earth essentially should be showing this, should be picking up your XYZ, your pitch, your yaw, etc. Now, again, I know there's the gravity vector and the claim of pulling to the center of the sphere, but even with that, it should be logged and recorded every day. I mean, they need to know exactly what the orientation of that airplane is in relation to the ground, in relation to the sphere, to make sure they know their pitch angles and for landing, for everything involved, and they have to make sure they don't collide in the air. So they would need to know all of that.
Have you ever looked into like black box data when like for plane crashes? Because I know that they have some of them are public data and they show literally like heart monitor type data in terms of like the altitude and the pitch and the yaw and stuff to try and analyze it.
Look, the bottom line is that no one's going to believe it unless he does it himself. So let him charter the jet and do it.
Well, it's not really. I mean, that is an interesting proposal to do that project. But I'm just saying, like it's been talked about, and when that eventually gets done. But I'm not really talking about that. I'm just referring to, like, just in general. It's just a general question. I'm not even trying to hold it as some extreme debate point. I mean, I know what I've seen over the years, and looking into this, being in the conversations, it is in contention, is what I'm saying. So in terms of whether gyroscopes, and again, it's such a dramatic thing. Either every gyroscope and every airplane essentially is picking this up. 1 degree every couple minutes, essentially 1 degree every 69 miles of travel.
Yeah.
Tilt, an orientation change of the airplane. Either every single gyroscope is picking it up all over, and Bull Knight said, like, one is that maybe they remove it in certain computer calculations, but it should be there and registered for decades and decades. We should have all that data. And I've seen like virtually nothing that I've seen that has actually looked, that it does actually occur.
Hypothetically, Gio, if the data was available, though, based on the history of how you guys are with conspiracies and stuff, you wouldn't necessarily believe it.
That's just not true. That's just a prejudgment of what might occur. I mean, if you want just a basic example, when I found out those guys were going to Union Glacier, I decided to look up a bunch of videos of Union Glacier. We looked at many, and I didn't declare any of them seemed fake. There were a few little things that were maybe slightly questionable, but very minimal. So it's just not true. If you give me, for example, if you're talking about me, whatever set of information, I'm going to address it uniquely. I'm not just going to have some random preconceived ideas. And even though it's venting that other people don't agree with things and you want them to, I don't know. But I'm just saying that's an assumption that I would do that. I would look at the data directly and just see what's.
Okay, so I'm just making a generalization from the majority of the people that I've spoken to in this community that generally deny everything and say, well, unless I do it myself, I don't believe it.
He's right.
It's not the case.
But you have to give that to him a little bit.
I mean,
I know what you're saying, Gio. Well, hold on. And I empathize with what Robert's saying, and I also empathize with what you're saying, Gio. It is a very, very rare, it is a black swan of sorts for us to actually have somebody that says, this sort of evidence would turn my ear, right? Like, I think that's what Robert's just used to, just like I am, used to the people that are saying, they're doing the sea lion thing, right? Like, oh, show me this, and you show them, and they just move the goalpost. And so I can empathize, and I think you would empathize with what he's saying too, to some degree. Am I wrong?
Or just say maybe talk about people that are here conversing, that kind of stuff.
Right.
Rather
just
than people
he's
that
not
aren't
bad
here
faith
that
with
you
his
have
question.
bad
That's my point.
experiences with.
It
Like
wasn't
I
a-
said, you made a
wasn't
point today. You made a point today, and I was like, okay, that's a good argument in that
Yeah, and I
in that
appreciate that.
paradigm. Just because I don't participate in that paradigm, here's how we can strengthen that argument. So like, there's actually evidence to the contrary that that's occurring. Where like it isn't the case that people are here dismissing flat out what people are saying. They're engaging with the points, bolstering them, etc.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll point to
in the midst of this discussion of is there data that shows airplanes, having this essentially tilting and orientation effect, if Robert's just going to say, well, even if we had it, you wouldn't believe it anyways, you could see how that's kind of a whole nother preconceived concept of how someone would or wouldn't accept it. The point is, does it exist, and can it be presented to the community or shown so that everybody can, assess it themselves?
But Gio, you yourself actually apply that logic where you dismiss current findings and you say things like ancient Chinese this or that as if it somehow trumps it because it's ancient. So you actually are doing what we're claiming. So I believe you might run away from the evidence if you saw it as well.
Yeah, but before you respond, wait a second. I want to hear what Robert.
Against his character.
Let Robert respond.
Against the thing people are talking about. These are just ad hominem arguments. Too cool K against Gio's character.
They won't let me respond.
Well, no, let Robert respond, and then Gio can. Yeah, can we do that? Can Robert respond?
Because I would love to respond.
Respond to the person and tack on more points against Gio. I mean, that's not a response.
Kelly, you were so full of shit. I was trying to.
It would be.
Gio, you should be able to respond.
It's not even contentious from my view. I'm just we're just breaking down the response. We're talking about, does the data exist? And you're like, hey, you wouldn't accept it. And then I brought up, well, when I looked at the Union Glacier footage, I didn't say it seemed fake to me. People like skydiving and taking vacations there and blogging on their cell phones, with their selfie cameras and stuff. So anyways, my point is that like not everything I look at is fake. So for you to put that onto me is false. But do you want to actually respond to something with substance? I think a couple other people want to get into it.
I was trying to, but nobody would let me.
Can I just say something real quick? I think.
Wait a second. Hold on a second. Wait. No, Robert should be able to respond.
Several people want to get in. I'm going to pass the mics up and just let everyone.
I should be able to respond.
Hold on. Let everyone. I'm going to pass the mic. Let's let everyone who want to get in go.
I'd like to hear Robert's response to what you said, Gio.
Dude, I just have to. I'm going to let you go, Robert. I have to just temporarily mute you. I just want to finish the sentence. Several people want to get in as a mod point. Let's just let everyone who wants to get in get in. Robert, go first. Go ahead.
You talk now? Thank you.
You were interrupting me. I was just trying to complete the moderation because several people want to get in. We want to make sure to let everyone get in. Go ahead.
I was going to say that I didn't say it in the tone that you said I said it in. I actually said it in a very respectful way, making a hypothetical, saying based on my experience here, I don't think you would accept it. It wasn't meant to be negative or an insult to you. I just meant it to say that based on my experience, when you say you have evidence, they go, well, I didn't really do it myself. So it wasn't a negative jab at you, Gio. It was just something, a generalization of my experience in this community. That's all it was. Thank you.
All right. I was only just responding to it because it was the next point in the convo, so it had to be responded to, I guess, since that was your rebuttal to where's the data. But who else was going to get into it?
So I just really wanted to say real quick, I think what you're conflating here is skepticism with denial. I think Gio generally approaches things with a certain level of good faith to where he'll look into the argument and give you the benefit of the doubt. But I think generally what happens a lot of the time in the discussion here is you hear all the time like, well, if they gave you this evidence, you just deny it. And it's like, well, no, that's not what happens in science. And that's not what should happen in science. If you're provided data, you should scrutinize it. That goes for everybody. That's all I want to say.
I agree with you there, Red Eye. I think there's a conflation of disagreement and not dogmatically accepting what the person says. It's like, if I gave you the data, you wouldn't believe in my religion that it's a globe. And it's like, well, I shouldn't. No one should. That's how science works.
Well, if I may jump back in.
And then criticize us for wanting to do it ourselves.
If I may jump back in, because I've been watching you guys criticize the Artemis mission ever since it happened. Now, none of you have any information directly from NASA. You've relied on videos, third-party videos people posted, and all you did was say how fake it is. Okay.
Because if you're once again talking about people who aren't in the current
In this Discord
conversation,
here, I've been
what you're doing
watching
is
it.
broad brush. Please stop. If you're not
Excuse me,
talking
I
about
was
people
talking.
who you finished speaking, you took a
Really,
giant pause and
I
you
took a
you
breath.
finished the sentence. So I wanted to ask you, who are you talking about? Because if you aren't talking about people who are currently in the conversation,
Well,
then
do
you're
you believe in the
broad
art of
brush.
fission?
Oh, both of you
Then
guys.
it would be
Stop.
you. Well, then it would be you. If
Both
you believe
of
it, then you could just say yes, I believe it, or no, I don't.
Oh my god.
All right, let's
You
just
two are
chill.
the worst.
Let's chill. So, dude, the thing is with okay, so I would just say this briefly. In terms of the evidences, like when people are asking for evidence for the globe, obviously like that is the mainstream model. It makes sense like we being the people like we're questioning, right? The governments, the whatever, etc. Not I mean it's not only linked to that, but I'm just saying it does make sense to be like, hey, we're told this, we're all brought up with it. And so that the data should be there if it was what we're being told. And there's just like I'm thinking of like baskets, and you have a basket, like you have a basket for is there curvature? There's another basket for is there motion? There's another basket for gyroscopes processing in airplanes. There's just all these baskets. So if there was like really, really solid data, like right now, let's just say it was presented from multiple sources. I mean, if airplane gyroscopes are picking this up every day all over the world, you'd think there'd be tons of it. But if there was evidence of this, and it was put into that basket, let's say it did fulfill the basket, even though I haven't done it myself, let's say it did at least fulfill, the rigorousness of it, the wide range of different data from different sources, it would, someone was asking, oh, would it change your whole worldview? Well, it's probably unlikely that probably anyone would change just from that. But like in the idea of baskets, at least it would fill that basket. Like at least that side would say, okay, there is very sufficient data to show this. Now, short of doing it yourself or making your own equipment and doing it yourself, I mean, obviously there's different levels of like rigorousness that you can go about it, but it would at least just fulfill that quota basically for that data if it was there.
Can I ask you what
people have taken, and I can show you videos. People have taken like little cheap toy gyroscopes, and they just took some effort to make it really low friction, like by floating them on a plate over water with with a little needle to hold it steady, so that just the lowest possible friction, and demonstrated the 15 degrees per hour of rotation of the Earth. And to say that like, oh, well, these airplanes should record it every day, that's literally part of the initialization, right? It's in the Honeywell manual on the ADRU.
That's the Sagnac effect, though, to 15 degrees. We know that happens. That's not contested.
How does the Sagnac affect, how does it affect a physical gyroscope?
I thought the gyroscopes have pendulous vanes.
Not anymore.
I know that voice.
That's pendulous vanes is on an airplane vacuum gyro that's used to make sure that the gyro maintains up down orientation over the course of hours.
Turbo-encabulated.
Yeah, so it's not just a gyroscope. There's like other things involved, messing up the gyroscope, not giving you a pure reference or whatever. And this whole thing is based on the assumption that the gyroscope does keep its place in space.
How does the Sagnac effect change a gyroscope, a physical gyroscope, not a ring laser gyroscope, a physical one? Can you explain that?
Mocking him.
Oh, I mean, Gio made the claim. Maybe he wants to explain it.
Yeah, I mean, if you have
because you're afraid of my explanation.
The two sides of this of what could be going on is if you were on an actual ball and you were rotating, that's the claim of the globe, obviously, claim for that. But if you have a stationary Earth, there is like what Noah just said, Mach's principle. That is one very interesting angle of it. But essentially, you would have to be if you're on a ball that's rotating, that's the one. Alternatively, if you're on a stationary plane and the sky is moving, then there would be a motion related with that sky. We could get into ether, electromagnetic fields, etc. But there could be a motion that's transferred from the motion of the sky through the medium and
down into your house into a physical rotating gyroscope. Is that actually what you're claiming? Stars are causing your physical gyroscope to change and have enough. Is that actually what you're claiming?
A very, very gentle drift, like ether drift or ether wind. Yeah, this has been known about far even before the modern, like relativistic kind of takeover situation in terms of the ether drift and so on. And yeah, I mean, like the pendulum, like the Foucault's pendulum that drifts very, very, very gently, that would be related to it. So it'd be a very gentle preferred direction.
The explanation for it is the rotation. You're claiming the Sagnac effect. How is it interacting with the physical gyroscope? I know you're making the claim, but don't just make the claim. Finish it. Tell me how it's interacting.
Same thing. The Earth's rotation causes the centrifugal divergence to influence the thing, and any other setup, flat, concave, if the Earth's stationary, the field is rotating. The field is rotating.
And how does that affect a gyroscope?
Okay, well let me just say it in concave. It's a centrifugal field rotation. So the centrifugal is outwards from the center toroidally,
but this is going off of Geo's claim.
So you have matching latitudes.
I'm really curious what Geo's answer would have been for this though, because he's made this claim multiple times. So if he has an understanding of how it actually interacts, I would love to know. I think science would too.
Yeah, so what a physical gyroscope actually does is it maintains its orientation relative to its own angular momentum, the momentum vector. So if you observe a gyroscope appearing to drift relative to the ground beneath it, the standard standard interpretation people have is the gyroscope is fixed in inertial space. The Earth rotates beneath it. Therefore, the apparent drift of the gyroscope relative to local ground confirms Earth's rotation.
Yeah, that's. Right? But he's saying that the Sagnac effect is actually causing that.
I'm just trying
drift,
to steel man what you're saying.
Oh, we don't need to though. I was in a conversation with Gio about this exact topic. Did you snooze out again?
No, I just wanted to steel man what you're saying.
You don't need to steel man what I'm saying.
Toxic, vile.
Oh my god, dude!
Wait, what was the Sagnac effect again?
I was just trying to steel man what you were saying so I could reply to it. You toxic, vile person.
Bro, stop fucking doing that, dude. Fuck you and your mods. I'm tired of you fucking doing this in here, dude. Humble yourself a little bit.
Gally, I wasn't talking to you, but I would. Maybe if you
panel, anybody can reply.
Oh my god. All right, so how about fuck that? Next time you have a conversation with somebody, I'll jump in and answer for the person you're talking to.
All right, can you guys just chill? Can we all just chill? So it's all good. Yeah, we were talking about the Sagnac effect. I think maybe Jake brought it up because what the contention with the Sagnac effect has always been: is it caused by the medium? Whether you go with Mach's principle, whether there's considerations of ether, and then the claim that we're on an actual rotating sphere and how that has shifted through time. Because I mean, like even Newton himself thought it was ether. So
Sagnac effect is about a shifting in the frequency of light when it's in a rotating frame.
Yeah, if you have these light objects,
nothing to do with it. Nothing. But we're talking about a mechanical gyro here.
Yeah, that's why I said physical. No, that's why I said physical, where Sagnac wouldn't take into, like, unless you're misconstruing what the Sagnac is, and then you're saying it's using the ether to shift this physical gyroscope. And I just don't see how that's possible.
It's a detected shift in gyroscopes based upon that sidereal motion. And
it's just physical gyroscope, not a ring laser gyroscope. A ring laser gyroscope, you might have, an argument for that. But I'm talking about a physical one.
That's why I steel-manned how a physical gyroscope works. I was going to reply to it, but you start freaking out.
Yeah, Jake mentioned the one
gyroscope. It assumes the Earth is rotating beneath it. The apparent drift of the gyroscope relative to the local ground confirms the Earth rotation. And I asked you if that was your claim, and I could respond to it. Then you started flipping out, saying a physical gyroscope and saying all this other stuff. Do you think that it confirms?
I respectfully declined to have you as an interlocutor.
No, dude, it's Howard. I understand. Like Jake had brought up the one where you can put in a little. It's like you can make it with like a little piece of paper, and then you can put a little needle and float it in water. So he was talking about picking it up that way.
Well, I was talking about a child gyroscope.
There's the Coriolis effect. There's the Foucault's pendulum effect, which is the clockwise and counterclockwise. You have the clockwise and counterclockwise stars. You have the magnetic field. There's even getting into like the preferred direction of light and what Dayton Miller was picking up with his interferometry experiments. So in terms of, there's a lot of factors involved in this, discussion and what's been going on for a very long time in terms of this, so.
Can you link me to a paper where it says that the Sagnac effect affects the Foucault's pendulum? Can you show me where that's linked together anywhere?
Well, it would be the same. Well, because the Foucault's pendulum is claimed to be affected by claiming that you're on a sphere causing the sidereal motion, meaning the rate of the stars, how they move, the movement of the stars. And they just say, hey, we're on a sphere, and therefore that's what it's picking up. However, what the Foucault's pendulum picks up, and I would say even Coriolis as well, they're all related to the Sagnac effect, meaning that this very gentle drift, the 15 degrees an hour, and then how it's clockwise and counterclockwise. And
you've used the fallacy of correlation equals causation to say all these things seem the same, so it must be this, even though you can't actually show me that that's the case. You just believe that to be. Thank you. That's a good answer.
No, I never said I believe it. I was proposing it as as an overview of what the viewpoints of like within science and within development and what is contested and what is said, because before Lorentz contraction and relativity and the whole globe Earth, that effect was known to be caused by ether and by the sidereal motion. Then you get into Mach's principle, that kind of conception of it as well. So I was just laying out the general, I wasn't really making any dead set claims. I would say for this topic, I don't think there's dead set proof of how the ether is doing it, nor do I think there's dead set proof that it's Earth rotation. So I think that maybe there's even certain technology being hidden from us that we would need to uncover. But I would say I have not seen like complete proof of either. Have you? To where you could manipulate what's causing it with an independent variable and actually validate what the cause is?
Yeah, I'd say it's been done pretty efficiently and effectively. But if you're claiming that the globe Earth only came around after the Lorentz contraction experiments, that's kind of weird to say that.
No, I was saying that like the interferometry and the Sagnac effect and a lot of that history went into like Michelson-Morley and how they ended up changing physics from ether physics into the relativistic physics based upon.
Yeah.
And they brought in the Lorentz contraction because it wasn't aligning with their model, trying to say that, the arm was contracting and changing size and different reference frames and all that.
Yeah, and the geocentric model, it's the same. So like in a geocentric ether model, the interpretation was just a complete inverse. So the gyroscope maintains orientation relative to the aether medium. The aether medium rotates around a fixed Earth, carrying the cosmos with it. The gyroscope drifts relative to the local ground. That reflects the rotation of the aether medium instead of the rotation of the Earth beneath. So this isn't exclusive, and no one would claim it to be. Actually, in fact, it's explicitly claimed to not be exclusive. So it's identical in both models. The interpretation is just a function of which cosmological assumption or whatever, like Copernican principle is a preference. It's a philosophical preference. So this is also affirming the consequent. If Earth rotates, gyroscopes drift relative to the ground at a predictable rate. Gyroscopes drift relative to the ground at that rate. Therefore, Earth rotates. Equally, if the aether medium rotates around a fixed Earth, gyroscopes would drift relative to the ground at exactly the same predictable rate. Gyroscopes drift at that rate. Therefore, the aether medium rotates around a fixed Earth. Is an equal, like both of these claims are non-exclusive.
But those are both affirming the consequent too. If somebody said
exactly.
that, yeah.
As I said, equally, you could make the same case. So like if we're gonna grant the physical gyroscope is proof of Earth rotation, in the same token, then the physical gyroscope is proof of not Earth rotation, rather the etheric medium rotation. So the Sagnac effect is not exclusive at all. Doesn't even claim it to be.
Yeah, we know it's correlated with the sidereal motion. That's one thing that's known. Unless you could like tap into or manipulate the ether though to show that it is the ether. I think there's tests we could do though that would be able to narrow things down quite a bit.
Has anyone ever demonstrated the mechanism?
I would even say though, like some of like that part, that argument for the globe is actually one of the stronger arguments because the gyroscope, if it was on a ball, it would actually pick up that precession. So it does like align with a ball. However, if we're on a stationary plane with a medium that functions like a sphere, like if the ether is toroidal, has a spherical nature, it could actually be just in the medium itself. So the question is which one is actually true? And
you can actually catch you can catch the orbit, you can catch the rotation and the orbit with the ring laser gyroscope. So how do you explain the Sagnac effect for the orbit around the sun that it would pick up over time?
Well, that was the whole reason they had to create relativity is because it didn't pick up the orbit of the sun around the Earth.
They didn't have ring laser gyroscopes when they were talking about relativity. We do now, and they have picked up the orbit of the Earth around the sun as well as the rotation of the Earth.
Physical gyroscopes. Now you're going to ring laser.
Now I am going to a fucking ring laser gyroscope, and I'm asking how the Sagnac effect would affect its data that it picks up of the Earth going around the sun, not just its own rotation.
Yeah, I addressed that.
No, you didn't, because in your argument, everything goes around the Earth. No. This one's picking up yes. If you're saying geocentric, that means everything goes around the geoid, the
I didn't
Earth.
say that was my argument. I said that.
Oh my God, you don't have any arguments. That's why I don't want to fucking talk to you.
No, I steel-manned both arguments because that's what an honest person would do. What a dishonest person would do would be to misrepresent and strawman what people say and then try to get them in positions they didn't even take, and then deafen repeatedly when they're in the middle of speaking so they can strawman them more.
It would be nice to talk to somebody who actually had a position.
I do have a position, and I can accurately steelman both positions, which you're unable to do. All you're able to do is say, all you flat earthers do this annoying thing and you don't do this other thing.
I asked you once for your position. And you never told me what it was. All you said was, I don't have a position.
Yeah, what's your
I
position?
never once said I don't have a position. So
Yes, you
this
did.
is you. This is you slandering and lying like you always do.
Don't start.
I
Don't
never
start, Kelly.
once said.
Don't start
I
slandering.
never.
What's your
once-
position? Just state your
I've
position.
never once said I don't have a position.
Do you have a position?
Yes.
Would you like to state it now? Go ahead.
Guy who
We're all
keeps
listening.
deafening when I'm in the middle of speaking and then straw manning me is now asking me what my position is.
It's not straw manning. We just want to know what your position is.
Okay, so you don't know what you're talking about, Padishah, because Demon Shroud has repeatedly
Focus
straw
on the argument, not the person, please.
Okay, there's 4 people interrupting while I'm speaking.
Just say what it is.
There's 4 people interrupting me while I'm in the middle of speaking. So Gatebreaker, shut up. Robert, stop interrupting. Padishah, stop interrupting. Demon Stride, stop interrupting. So I'm going to address each thing one by one because there's 4 people asking me things. Padishah, yes, there was straw mans. There's Demon Stride repeatedly deafening like he just did, and then coming in when I'm done speaking to straw man me. There's a ton of straw mans happening, so you're wrong about that.
Okay.
You're asking me what my position is. I'm going to address all the questions because there were 4 while 4 people interrupted me repeatedly. So what's my position on what, Padishah?
All that to get to that? What a fucking loser.
Padishah said, so what is your position on what?
You guys, can we just stop this bad vibes? We were talking about gyroscopes. We're talking about gyroscopes and Sagnac effect. Should we move to a different topic, or where should we go?
I don't like the fact that you guys are just going to say, well, you have this ether drift that, okay, you can try to argue that, well, it affects the propagation of light and therefore it interferes with the interferometer and a ring laser gyroscope. But then to say, oh, it also can actually physically apply a force to this mechanical gyro and affect that. But yet you have no mechanism that has ever been demonstrated by anybody, let alone a flat earther, as to how the rotation of the ether drift or the sky or the stars or whatever are mechanically affecting this gyro on a flat stationary Earth. You have no mechanism of how that force is applied to that.
Completely equivalent. And I did.
Equivalent how?
Completely lined it out. I guess you weren't listening for that. And then you just come back with the same thing that Robert does. You guys just dismiss it and maintain your belief and don't listen. So even if we show you anything, it's the same nonsense.
Wait, how's it equivalent? Wait, Gally. How is the movement of the stars affecting the rotation of a gyroscope on a flat and stationary Earth?
Have you been here for the past 30 minutes, or did you hear what I said?
No,
about
I never
not
heard the
ring laser
mechanism of how
gyroscope
it's
with
being
the thing?
affected.
I'm not in the
Yeah,
middle of
he made plenty of claims.
Oh,
But
hold on,
no,
Demon Stride, let Gally go,
don't
please.
do that.
Please. No, just let him go, please.
What
Demon
can I
Stride,
spurg
if you're
out
gonna
and
keep
yell?
deafening,
No,
and then
please.
undeafening
I already
to
corrected
interrupt
him,
me-
bro. I already corrected him. Please go ahead.
Thank
Gally,
you.
please.
Yeah, Demon Stride, if you're gonna be a part of the conversation, stop deafening and interrupting me, please.
Don't tell me what to do, man. Quit crying.
You're good,
I'm
bro. You're good, bro.
moderating you.
Hey,
Stop
guys,
doing that.
please,
Oh
for the
my
love
God,
of God,
just move on, dude.
for the love of
stop.
God, can we just go ahead, Gally, please?
Gally, for fuck.
Yeah, dude, just
Trying
stop
to
all the
moderate
like
the
bickering
conversation
stuff.
so we can have a
Just
conversation.
Stop, dude. Just stop.
Stop wielding the modding and stop just being bad vibes. Can we chill? Well, let's not wield modding. We don't need to mute anybody. Let's just be respectful, and then people won't probably react.
God bless you, Gio.
Wielding the
Thank
modding?
Guys, we're all good.
You're wielding the modding. You're like
Thanks for that, Gio.
Just
Thanks
stop, bro. Yeah.
The only person that I muted was Gatebreaker because he was
No, bro. It was a good mute, bro. I love you, bro. Go ahead, please.
I'm not wielding the modding. People are if
go ahead.
4 people are interrupting me and screaming over me, and I stop talking, and then another person comes in and make a
Dude,
point.
you've been doing this for the past 5 minutes, man. Just like move on.
We need a babysitting room. Are you gonna make your claim yet? Please just state
Why
your
are
claim.
you crying
Don't
so
fucking
much?
bitch.
Just move on. Fuck.
All right, can we just somehow move forward?
Yes, we can. We can't force Gally to move forward. Can we just move the convo?
Yeah, my bad, Gio, for being bad faith is 4 people repeatedly interrupt me and insult me.
My bad for interrupting to tell everybody they're interrupting while I'm interrupting. Fuck, dude.
Gally, you're not the bad guy, bro. Let's just move the convo forward, please.
Yeah, I do find it ironic, though.
Insulting me while I'm in the middle of speaking, and I'm steel manning both positions, and I'm not insulting anybody. What, are you kidding me?
I find it funny that you're going to play the victim here, Gally, and complain about people interrupting. When earlier today you wouldn't let me get 4 words into what I was trying to say without interrupting me, and then I was complaining about that, and you're like, "Well, it's because you just keep repeating yourself, and we don't want to hear what you have to say."
Can we have it my way, guys? Gally, everyone's good. Gally's good. Let's just move forward. No need to blame. What's the convo? If it's not, what's the No, bro.
I do want
We
to
don't need
hear.
to blame Galley, please.
I want to hear Galley. I want to hear his. I want to hear his
No, but-
argument.
No, because Gio said something that's correct, and thank you, Gio. God bless you.
I do want to hear Galley's explanation though for how he's contending that it's the same that the moving sky is somehow affecting a mechanical gyro on the surface of the flat and stationary Earth. What mechanism is he proposing that's causing that observed
question.
effect?
Yeah, I spoke specifically about how a physical gyroscope works in both things, and it's not exclusive.
Yeah, you explained how a gyroscope works, but you didn't give us a mechanism for how it's interacting with it.
Yes, I did. You just deafened as I was speaking.
No, did he? Hey guys, did he give an answer while I was deafened?
Me again.
Hey, Globers, you guys have only been listening to this shit for 5 years. Can you not think of it yourself?
Gatebreaker, what the fuck, dude? Calm down.
No,
we don't want to put words in his mouth.
What is it gonna say? What is it gonna say? Ether. You can't do it yourself.
I don't understand. Like,
how much are you gonna press him, bro?
You're out of line, Gatebreaker.
I'm not, but I will go on mute. Thank you.
Over the line. I'm going to try to keep the convo going.
Much.
Okay, so I'll just say my 20 seconds. Okay, this is what I would say. In terms of the Sagnac effect, the pendulum, the Foucault's pendulum, even the weight change with latitude could be connected to this. You have the Coriolis effect, the clockwise and counterclockwise motion of hurricanes in the north and south. There's also the claimed shooting of the bullet, the Coriolis, where the bullet drifts a little bit, and so on. Now, I know that many of those things I just said are claimed to be Earth rotation, that the ball we're on is rotating. If it is the medium, in terms of what could be causing that, I guess what I would say is this. In my personal life, I have never been able to like tap into what that Sagnac effect is, like tap into it, open it up, be able to like somehow modulate it and manipulate it and detect exactly what it is to come to this conversation right now to say this is exactly what it is. The globe Earth claims it's Earth rotation, and then there's all of that component. In terms of what it could be if it's connected to ether, to me though, it's not, even though I can't tell you I have some 100% proof that's what it is, to me, understanding what I do on many levels of what's related to this, it isn't a leap for me to consider though that with the sky moving the way that it does, it would make sense to me that the whole medium could be connected to that sky. The ether and ideas of that, which goes into that whole category, but that there's a background medium. If there is a background medium, that medium could be in motion in relation to what the sky is doing. Because the sky is like the only motion we really see in that way. Like, yeah, you have like animals and, jumping around on the earth, but in terms of this whole realm, that motion of the sky seems like foundational. It's the motion, and then the sun, the moon, all the cycles, everything that's moving. So the idea to me that there could be a relationship, again, I don't know that I have absolute dead set proof of what that mechanism is that I could give you right now and just like slam it on the table and be like, here it is, the Sagnac detector, and like something that taps into ether and like somehow lets you see exactly what it is. But it isn't a stretch to me that this could be what's actually occurring. And it is what they thought, going back in time, like even Isaac Newton and others going back as to like what gravity is, and then going back to ether, before relativity came in. So
can I ask a question about that though? So if the Sagnac effect and it's the medium, like let's say the ether is affecting the ring laser gyroscope, and let's say we take the ring laser gyroscope and we put it in a vacuum, and we take a physical gyroscope and we put it in a vacuum, how is it in your mind that the Sagnac or the ether is affecting each gyroscope the exact same amount? One's physically moving and one's just a light beam. I could get behind the light beam being bent and moved, but how is it also applying a stronger force to the physical one to then change it? Because you could scale up the gyroscope even bigger, and you would need more force to change its precession. How is it equal for both of them?
For a physical and an interferometer or a ring laser?
They both put out the exact same precession, but yet the Sagnac effect is going to be pressing. It would have to press on the physical one harder than with the light beam. So how is that correlate in your head there?
Oh, harder because you're saying it's like metal that it would have to move versus just the light or something?
Exactly. Yeah,
exactly.
Well, I mean, like the physical force involved. That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, does it function like a pushing force? So like if you were to have like I know what you're saying. If you had like a fan, or you were blowing like air, or if you had a fan and the fan was going a certain rate, but how are you relating that to what it would take to get the light to shift though? But I mean, if
because they both show the exact same precession. So yeah, we could take your fan analogy. We put a beach ball on the ground and we put a basketball on the ground. We turn the fan on. Which one do you think is going to go further? Probably the beach ball. It's lighter and it's being pressed on by the same equal force. And yet, when you do the same, you apply the same thing to gyroscopes with a ring laser and a physical one, you get the exact same precession. So your analogy with the fan, you're right. I agree with you.
Okay, but I hear you. But that would only be if it functions like in that kinematic function that you're referring to. That like the actual kinematics of it would have that physicality. What if it's like part of the actual like background medium itself, or like part of what the matter is actually made of? Like there's even that idea that Tesla talked about it, but others too, that matter is actually made of light, like light and sound vibrating in a certain way. So if it was actually like light vibrating, now I know that's maybe going a little too metaphysical or a little bit too speculative, but the idea that like the metal physical, the physical metal gyroscope is made of light, the interferometry beams are also made of light, and that the background is going to have an effect on either of them. I mean, the bullets drift as well. And I know all these things are claimed to be Earth rotation, but if they're not Earth rotation, Earth is stationary, then it would be essentially medium rotation or something in the medium, because the whole drift of the bullet, which I know some people contest that doesn't happen, but I've never tested it like myself shooting bullets, but I tend to think that probably is a real effect. It's probably a little hard to decipher that it is that though, because you got spin drift and all these other effects.
So What If is a great show. It's the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but just saying that like this is a likely case, and you respond with a what if and it could be, if and cause it could be. That doesn't actually make your argument sound any better. It actually just sounds like you're trying to not take in actual evidence and hold a position that is congruent with reality. It sounds like you're just trying to further your bias.
Well, I don't really necessarily think this is an argument as if we're debating. So I'm not telling you that I have proof of what it is. It's more of just a discussion on what it could be. I mean, because if we get into the Earth rotation, like, oh, it's Earth rotation, well, then we have to get into, is that actually what it is? Is this actually proof of it? Or are any of these things actual proof of one or the other? And that's why talk about the exclusivity. We're talking about, that's why I think Gally was saying last, like that it's not exclusive to one or the other. Because the mechanism saying it's the globe, but now you have to have a huge, massive ball, and then something to make it suspended, and then an atmosphere to be clinging to it. Like it involves a whole bunch of factors for it to be that explanation. Which could, to say what the mechanism is at that point.
A vacuum wouldn't affect an ether drift, so neither is exclusive. So even if you put it in a vacuum, it wouldn't change anything.
All I was doing was like getting on the same playing field and saying, if the medium, not the air, we're talking about the medium is an ether, okay? So now I remove atmosphere from the equation. So this ether is going to apply a force on both of these gyroscopes, and we're going to get the exact same result, even though they are two completely different physical realities. So that doesn't make sense. You can't use one force and that would require different applicable pressures and forces applied and get the same result on two different gyroscopes.
I think you could if it's happening in the background medium. Like it's actually like what the matter is made of. Like, how like the electrostatic bonds that make up all matter, there's electrostatic bonds, maybe at that very deep level to where it's occurring, to where it's not necessarily like, it's not like you can just
choosing it.
You know how like in golf or whatever, you can like lick your finger, put your finger up and see which way the wind's blowing because you feel the air on your finger. You do it in baseball and golf, whatever. You can't just go out there and pick up ether drift by doing that. First of all, it's like 15 degrees an hour. So it's like basically the speed of the stars, how slow the stars look to be moving. That's what this drift is. And that's why it's so minimal that the Foucault's pendulum, like it just picks up this very slight effect on it. Like it's a very subtle effect.
But again, you're claiming that the forces
maintains orientation relative, like in a geocentric model. Gyroscope maintains orientation relative to ether medium. Ether medium rotates around a fixed Earth carrying the cosmos, so that this space would just be pure ether. The gyroscope drift relative to local ground would reflect the rotation of the ether medium, not the rotation of Earth. And the two arguments that it's Earth rotates, gyroscope would drift relative to ground, gyroscopes drift relative to ground, therefore Earth rotates, versus if ether medium rotates around a fixed Earth, gyroscopes would drift relative to ground at exactly the same predictable rate, gyroscopes drift at that rate, therefore the ether medium rotates around a fixed Earth. Neither one of these is exclusive.
But you're invoking this somehow, that this ether is somehow a real thing, and that it also manifests a force on a mechanical gyro, which is something that within the physics that we understand, it has never been demonstrated. That You have no mechanism to explain it.
Isaac Newton thought that what caused gravity was ether coming down from above, coming downwards, like actually ether. So I mean, the reason things fall, the reason things fall, he thought was connected to ether as to why the physical matter, why you drop a rock.
He could propose an idea, but he never demonstrated it to be true.
And for the record, when you say you're invoking ether to be doing this thing, and ether is not an actual thing, Earth rotation is not an actual thing. My point exactly was both of these claims have the same issue and they're non-exclusive. Then you're like, oh, you're invoking that one claim that you said is affirming the consequent. No, I'm not. I'm saying both of them struggle in this way.
We have gyroscopes in space, right?
What is exclusive is the geometry of is the field. How are you gonna like visualize the field rotation of the ether? When it comes to a geostationary globe Earth, you're going to have a field rotation. How can I explain this to you guys? Look, when we say these words like ether and field rotation, these are all just words, but models define these words. So like, look, let's say this. Concave Earth has an ether rotation. All these words, concave Earth has as well. The geometry behind that is toroidal. It's spherical. If you imagine a torus field, if you imagine a torus field, it's rotating, right? It's rotating. The equator of the torus fields, if you imagine the lines of interference or the lines of intersection, the equator of the torus fields, those lines of force, those as it intersects the equator of the geocentric globe Earth, if you have a toroidal ether rotating around a geocentric Earth, globe Earth, the Earth is stationary. The intersection angles of the lines of force of the field itself interacts with the surface. When your model is spherical, like globe or concave, those replicates your pendulum angles given given the latitude.
Claims are non-exclusive. So like to say it is like, oh, if we put it in a vacuum, then we can rule out space-time, right? Like that'd be a ridiculous.
That's not why I said that. That's not why I said that.
I didn't say that's why you said that. I was making an analogy. Can you please stop interrupting? You waited for me to start speaking to interrupt me. So anyway, if you put it in a vacuum.
Oh, big deal.
Oh my God.
Sorry, Gally. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, sorry for wielding my mod, Geo, by letting.
No, you're fair. Go ahead, bro. Please go ahead.
Just keep wielding your mod. Keep wielding your mod.
I muted one person for screaming. Like, I just don't want 4 people repeatedly interrupting me right when I start speaking.
Step into your inner mod, dude.
That torus field that I just posted in the chat, if you were to wrap it, so this torus field, what we're worried about is the centrifugal divergence outwards and away from the center. If you were to wrap a sphere around that, okay, you see this torus field, wrap a sphere around it. I know it's oblate. It's not perfect. Wrap a sphere around it. If you look at the equator lines where those individual rings, those lines of force intersect this imaginary sphere we created around it, the intersection angle of these lines of force of the ether field, literally all around the circle, gives us the pendulum behaviors. This is not to say Earth is concave. This is just another way of looking at it. The globe model is reverse. This GIF we're seeing, this field is not correct, not one for one. But the Earth is rotating in this thing. So the Earth's rotating at the latitudes, those lines of force, those angular lines of force intersecting with the next thing above it, which would be the crust in the globe Earth model, sends out these angular things, which the angles are the same. You've got
if you turned
you've got a stationary you've got a stationary globe Earth, ether based, no rotation, and the field is rotating. There is no lands, no rotating. That gives you the behavior. This is the only swap geometrically possible. Now, flat Earth needs to figure out, okay, so we've got this toroidal field, we've got this GIF, and then we have this level plane underneath it somewhere. Is it underneath it? Is it in the middle? This same rigor needs to be done for
So it's like a video
any
game too?
setup of a level plane. We're not being picky here. Any of them. Thank you very much.
Jesus fucking Christ, what was that?
An attempt.
Can you compare Halo levels next?
Yeah. So, long story short, any geocentric ether-based globe model. We're talking about globe here. So flat earthers don't.
Go ahead, Professor.
The pendulums, the ring laser gyros, its behavior per given latitude is due to that right there. Draw your circle outside of it, inside of it, whatever you want. It's due to that right there.
Where did you post your toroidal?
So maybe as a community, we should review the behavior of maybe these pendulums or these other instruments. What do we measure at each latitude? So we've got equator, which is 0, middle of your globe.
You want to fall back on the scientific pendulum?
And we go higher and higher, all the way up to North Pole, all the way up to South Pole. And there is a predictable, repeatable behavior at each of these 10, 10, 10.
But you
0,
wouldn't be able
10,
to
all the way to
remove that
90.
from the idea of a field effect, right?
0, negative
Yeah,
90. There's a
rotating
there's a
field, you were
repeatable behavior, and the geometry
words
of the
before?
field itself, of the
How do you
ether
know that
field,
those words won't interact with
is
the words that you just said?
influencing this per what we talk about. Thank you very much.
Did you just say Kerbal?
That first GIF I posted, look at the equator of that rotation. If you imagine those lines of force at the equator hitting it at the angle at the surface, concave or convex, you have to see them both at the same time.
Where did you post these?
In the live stream text.
Thank you.
What is it? I'm just doing it from memory, just in real time. What was it? The equator, the pendulum behavior was noticed to just swing backwards and forwards. There was no a drift, or what do you call it? Whatever words they call it. It just it swings back and forth at the equator. Is this correct? I'm ready to correct in real time. Is this correct? At the equator, these folk-called
We should
fucking
probably send
pendulums,
Wiss it down.
they just fucking
Check
swing
it out.
back and forth. There is no fucking rotation around it.
Oh, wow, look who's here.
Now,
the
that's the
ultimate guru
equator.
of
That's one
questionable
extreme.
cheer. Austin.
The other extremes are the poles. They're not just swinging back and forth in one spot. They're just constantly fucking rotating. Someone correct me here. I'm not fully confident on this.
The equator, the pendulum does not process.
So that's news. Who's that just talking?
So I don't know. In my mind, I see it simply. I don't have any issues swapping back and forth between concave and globe. I understand it's based on the same geometry, just which lines of force. Is it going outward or is it going inward? Cool. Now, go ahead, please. I'm not preaching. Go ahead, please.
Oh no, I was just saying that's. I mean, good for you, man. So if somebody has convictions about the position that they hold. It's nice to hear somebody actually like just say what they believe. It's like pulling teeth trying to get somebody to say that earlier.
Now, in the FE paradigm, these lines of force also apply. What we're seeing is a spherical toroidal field. At least the GIFs I posted, that is spherical. It is wrapped around a fucking ball. Call it oblate, call it what you want. The dual pole I'm speaking just from my opinion, okay? I'm not speaking for anyone or anything. The dual pole model is that toroidal field flattened out. You preserve your two poles, you preserve your equator, but then like at the edges, something has to give. You've got a spherical toroidal field, but then you got a flattened out toroidal field.
Demon Stride, real quick. I'm not trying to shift from what you're saying there because I know you're laying that out, but this is a little bit from before as well. But it is a quick question, unless someone has a quick follow up to what you're saying. But just Demon Stride, I was going to ask you, like, if you were just thrown in this realm, just from whatever, you just popped in. And you didn't know anything about it, and you're just on this like what seems like a stationary Earth or whatever, and then the sky's moving. Like, would you have any way to know whether the thing you're on is moving or whether the sky is transferring through the medium?
Oh, so that's you got a hidden question in there, because like if you're talking do I see the sky moving, and then I'd also have to see a gyroscope processing, and would I be able to determine if it's the sky moving the gyroscope? I think that's the actual question you're trying to ask.
Yeah, like if you just were plopped in here. Sorry, Gatebreaker, if I distracted from your point, but it's just that it was from my mind from before. So it's.
To answer your question, I don't think I'd have a good reason to think the sky would be making my gyroscope process. I would have to invoke something like ether that I also couldn't prove.
But if you just were popped in this realm and you're just here and you're just like looking around and you see that like, oh wow, the sky is moving like really slowly, but I notice it moving, and the sun thing comes every day and it leaves every day, and the moon, like, wouldn't it be logical though to think like, I wonder if there is some way in which like this pendulum down here that's drifting very slightly is connected to that motion up above me?
No, I don't think I would make that connection. I don't think I'd have a reason to, because like if maybe correlation is the causation, but that's not the way my brain works. I look at it and I don't know why you would link the two together. In my mind, I can't see, because I can't see a physical connection. I can't see anything between the stars and something physical moving, but I can see physical things moving other physical things. So I'd probably look at that and say that's most likely the cause of something moving.
Okay, well, how about this then? The last like thing I'll ask with this kind of, so if let's say you and I were both popped into this realm and we're sitting there and we meet each other in the woods, we're like, maybe we don't even speak English, we're just grunting, and then we get some wood and we make a fire, whatever, and then you and I are sitting there and we're talking about which one it is, and you say, now you can speak English, let's say, and you say, I think we're on a huge ball and we're rotating and all those stars are way out there and that's why those stars are moving. And I say, no, I think that the pendulum is affected, that the stars are just moving above a stationary Earth, and there's something about the medium, that is connected to the stars that is causing the precession. If we both had those theories, the next thing would be, we could say, okay, well, they're not necessarily mutually, there's not one that's exclusive over the other, just from that based alone. You would have to prove that the Earth is actually moving or in rotation. I would have to prove that it's the ether that's actually causing it, or some other effect like that, or something in the medium. And then we could get into like what proof is there of those,
Right.
Which
to be honest, to be honest, if we just plopped in and we went to make a fire and we looked up and we made those observations, I don't think I would even conclude we're on a globe. If those are the first things I saw, I think you probably take like a year of mapping the stars to see some sort of, what do you call it? Like actual evidence of shape. But I still wouldn't, I still don't know how you would even make the argument that there might be something I can't explain doing this thing I already can't explain, and why would one hold more weight over the other? Which is what you're doing when you say it could be the Sagnac, or it could be this. It might be this other thing, or it could be this other thing. When there's actual good explanations and evidence and facts and data to show you what is most likely the case. So just to constantly stand there and say it might be this or that's fruitless, in my opinion.
The reason, the fruit of why it might be this or that. God, fuck, man, I forgot. I forgot. Man.
Yeah, I just think I understand questioning. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's your turn.
And I get the human nature of wondering about a thing, but I just don't ever see in my mind the logic that connects the stars moving to something physically moving. I can't touch the stars. They may just be ghosts in the sky. But the thing that's moving in front of me, I can touch and feel, and I can see that maybe we made a gyroscope and I walked, and I could show that it precesses when we walk far enough around the globe. So I just think there's better data than what ifs.
I agree.
Maybe one thing to add, it's not only the rotation of the Earth, you can also measure the weight difference on the equator. So that's another evidence point for the Earth
I was going to bring that up earlier.
And having a centrifugal force on the equator.
That's exactly. I was going to bring that up a while ago, and we went kind of past the gyroscope thing. But how would the Sagnac effect make gold or make mass, way more at the equator versus the poles if there wasn't something spinning it, causing it to have, how does that work on a flat Earth? What makes things heavier towards the poles than heavier towards the poles than at the equator?
Torus field.
Yeah. So another what if?
Magic.
Yeah. It's Marvel Universe.
And don't forget about the planets. Mars. We catch up to Mars in orbit, and it makes it look like Mars is going backwards for a second. So there's so many other things that we see that show that we're moving around.
Exactly, and that ring laser gyroscope can show that rotation around the. Yeah, so why look at all of those evidence and data and go, maybe it's something else? Why are you holding out?
What does this?
What are you holding out for,
bro? There's holdout because some people are convinced via other models, and they're doing their darnest.
Geo's not.
Hold on,
Can you not interrupt?
Hold on, please. From one facet of the view, it seems like cope, but from another facet, it's doing your darndest to like really, give it all it's got from as best as you can.
Can I empathize with you, Demon Stripe, for a moment? I think the idea is that we're on the same sort of journey of like what truth is, right? But like what Demon Stride is trying to convey is that we have evidence, right? It's like how can you sort of take a similar position to the globe, lacking what? And I think what they would say, Demon Stride, is that they feel they have evidence. You would counteract that, but like I think that what the globe would say is like we have concrete evidence we can show. We ask questions, and it seems to get diverted. And I guess
you nailed it. They feel they have
same.
evidence.
Yeah.
It's a feeling. That's the problem. So when you don't use logic and you're using an emotion to hold a position, you can't use logic to explain away your emotional feelings. So you become trapped.
Well, the emotional feeling involves some realm of possibility, which to some degree the bearer may hold, like in regards to flat Earth. The bearer
Most
may
likely
hold
projections.
Well, fuck it. Okay, go ahead. I was trying to defend FE. Go ahead. Fuck it.
I'd like to hear Gatebreaker finish his remark. Go ahead. Gatebreaker.
Thank you. I appreciate that, but I mean, I'm not trying to play games, but I was just sometimes I just am in the moment. You know, I was just trying. I can't repeat it.
Okay, no problem. Eden, what were you saying, dude?
It's okay. Why don't we get back to the science rather than try to psychoanalyze the positions of the people that hold them, or the people that hold these positions? But unless you want to continue.
Psychoanalyze positively in favor of. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Eden.
I do think sometimes it's healthy to kind of evaluate where we're at from step to step when we're having a discussion. And I think we started to venture in that direction. So I don't think there's any fault with that.
I got a pretty good analogy, and maybe someone could either agree or disagree with me. Let's say hypothetically that everything that we saw in the sky completely matched the flat Earth model. The sun just disappeared into a point. Everything in the sky just matched perfectly what the flat Earth model was, or they say it is. And then we would come around, the globe Earth would then say, oh, well, it's perspective, or we would come up with all these little post hoc rationalizations. I mean, they would be laughing their fucking ass off at us.